I think we're live, or I'm live. Captain Nick has gone to put on change his shirt, and I'm still doing the last minute setup thing. I lost track of time. I was just doing some things here for the show, and then I just happened to look up at the clock, and I went, ugh, it's time. So anyway, let's see here. How's everybody? Dun, dun, dun. I'm hoping everybody is seeing me on the, I can see the chat. Okay, let's see. I need to start. Let's see, I need to close this.
Ready to go.
Save
I'm a big
changes.
ass. I've got a big ass.
No. Oh, look at that. Big ass t-shirt you have there.
Exactly.
Okay, open recent. Volumes. This. Okay. And okay. And select all. We are live, by the way.
I just spotted that.
Okay.
Good job I didn't come back with one of my usual.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that
comments.
you noticed that. My bad.
Oh, dear.
What are you saying? That you can actually be rougher around the edges than the public knows? That
Just
can't
on
be right.
occasions.
Nah, it can't be right. Post edit audio.
Google. I'm drinking a rather nice IPA called Proper Black. It's a
Ooh.
black IPA.
Sounds nice.
It is actually.
I
Powerfully
am-
hopped. It's it's as you'd imagine, a sort of stouty flavoured IPA.
Oh, good. Let's see. How do I turn off? I'm going to go turn that off. Airplane mode on my iPad so you don't hear those noises. And let me go here to audio routing on the XR18 to Adobe Audition. Test, 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 check, check, check. Looks like it's picking
Still there?
me
You're
up.
still there?
And I need to go, let's see, you would be 910. And audio arm. And say something for me, please.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper.
All right. Very good.
Jeff is hotter than Nick.
That goes without saying, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Okay, hang on. System prefs. And sound. And output. No, input. iMic audio system. And I'm going to bring it down. Okay, I brought it down a little bit, I think. Does the volume sound a little bit lower?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and we'll see if it is to the chat room's liking, or if I need to bring it down even more, which I'd be
Okay.
happy to.
Just a point about that extra audio I stuck in.
Yeah.
It might flag up on YouTube.
Oh,
It's a commercial song.
well, we can try it, and then just hope it's a one of the slap copyright violation and not a bring the video down violations,
Okay.
or just play like a little snippet of it,
Yeah.
like a tiny, not the whole thing that you gave me there.
Yeah. Because
Maybe we'll try that.
seconds on.
Okay. I mean, not even 30.
No, that's what I mean. You need
Yeah.
to probably keep it down to 10 or 15.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
And we can talk over it a bit. That will probably confuse you,
Nah,
wouldn't
it doesn't have any effect, believe it
Oh,
or
does
not.
it not?
Nope. Their algorithms are so good that it
God
doesn't even.
damn it.
Yeah. You can even speed things up and slow things down, and it still gets it.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty clever.
Mind you, both the guys are dead, so I don't know. I guess they still have
No, it's still
copyright.
copyrighted. Oh, yeah.
Damn it.
And then there are people out there that are claiming copyright on things that are in the public domain. And you can spend all day long fighting them on it, and it's just not worth your time. It's not worth my time.
Yeah. Better things to do.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Banana slap. And now the MacBook. We choose 1314 stereo.
But I have to check my recorder's ready.
And let me go start Farrago. Sounds like I'm saying Frago, but it's Farrago, whatever that means. You hear that?
Yep, very nice.
Very good. Okay, that means you'll be able to hear the sound effects coming from Evernote. Very good, very good. I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit record just so I don't forget. And, oh, looks like you're ready. So, APG 388, 3, 2, 1. Okay. A farrago is a confused mixture. Okay.
I like it.
Well, if you looked at the Farrago soundboard that I have, I would agree with that assessment. It is a very confused mixture. Okay, let me just move the latest. Well, let's see. I was going to do a little magic to this PT that you sent me. Try to even it out a little bit, but I can do that in post. Let's see. Let me play this one.
The old pilot's playing tails.
Okay, I'll do that one.
A little bit of Africa in there.
Yeah, I like it. And that should be the one that doesn't have the promo at the end. And then I will do the one, of course, that does have the promo in the end and convert it to an MP3 and then upload it to Libsyn and then let you do
Cool.
your magic to it.
I was halfway through doing the last one you put up before you came on.
Excellent.
So it's almost done. It's almost ready.
Great. Okay. Now, let me go here to the intro. We don't have an intro today from Roger. I think he's on vacation. It'll be just good old-fashioned style.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Can you remember how to do
Wow.
it?
That's really loud. Sorry. Probably not too loud for you guys, but it was very loud for me, so let me turn that down a little bit.
WAPG, it's the airline pilot guy.
Is that okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Let me turn off system preferences and you know when somebody, no, you probably don't notice it. We're using StreamYard again. Hopefully, we're crossing fingers. So far, so good. Hopefully, Steph, when she joins us, will be able to join without a problem, and I'll be able to hear her. And we'll just keep fingers crossed. We are still using Chrome. By the way, I mentioned last week people were helping me try to troubleshoot this thing. It said something about Chrome. This uses Chrome. I thought it was just Chrome only, but there's Chrome and Firefox that this works on, both Chrome and Firefox. But it works best on Chrome as far as functionality, as far as opening up, like sharing the screen, sharing Chrome tabs. It doesn't have that option in Firefox. And the screen sharing feature is pretty nice when I'm using Chrome tabs. For instance, I'm going to share this tab, and you can probably see. Let's see.
Oh, very good.
There we go.
It looks like Steph hasn't shaved. Oh, hang on a minute. That's Micah.
Okay, and then what I can do is I can hit like next page on the browser, and then you probably see a different picture.
Yeah. Works.
Okay, and a different picture.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I can just hit the backwards and forwards button on that particular tab and kind of scroll through a bunch of different photos.
Oh, great.
So I like that. I can't do it if I'm using Firefox. That doesn't work because it just doesn't work. In Firefox. I don't know why. Anyway, so everybody, the levels are better now. Okay. There is still a little bit of a latency with this method of doing a Hangout, our show, video. But not too bad.
Sounds good.
Okay. Sounds fine now. Thank you, Brandon. He would know. He's a what's the word I'm looking for?
Audio freak?
Audiophile. He's very
Freaky?
not freaky. And a particular, that's not the word I'm looking for.
Precise?
Precise. No, that's not it either,
Professional?
but all that.
Capable?
Yes. All those.
Brilliant. Brilliant!
He's brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Let's see here. Are we ready to go?
Oh, I've been ready and waiting. So.
I know you have. That was a rhetorical question.
Yep. I'm going to mute now and wait for it all to start.
And Steph will be joining us soon. She is stuck in or driving home in the lovely Friday afternoon traffic. So we will eagerly, not anxiously, because I'm not anxious about her joining us, but I am eager to have her join us. So there you go. All right. So you're looking at the clock, Liz. So here we. Oh wait. Yep. I think I'm ready.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 388.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show was recorded on the 23rd of August, 2019.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, the pilots of the Miracle on the Cornfield twin-engine flame-out crash landing are awarded Heroes of Russia by President Vladimir Putin. A light twin crashes into a home in Union Vale, New York, killing the pilot and a person inside the home. More news, your feedback, and this week's Plaintail All-Weather Heather. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 388 is ready for pushback. Yay! It is this week's episode of the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I am Captain Jeff, a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And here with me today from his studio in the English countryside, a professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London, Captain Nick.
Yeah, hi there, Jeff. Oh, if only I was still current. But
Oh, you know
suppose
what? I was just reading the script. I forgot to change it. Sorry.
If only. Well, I suppose I could be, since I wouldn't have to officially retire until the 9th of September. So I would have a few days left, but they're fast approaching. No, I'm not going to climb onto another flight deck unless it's for fun.
We can get you in the simulator and get you all, re-qualified and everything else in just a couple
You
of
could
days,
try.
right? No, thank you.
No, thank you. Right.
All right. Well, glad to see you, sir. How's everything over there in England?
It's pretty good. We're having a warm spell after a period of rather dubious weather. The Australians are over here telling us how to play cricket, which is quite amusing. But at the moment, they're in the lead and doing very well. More importantly, I've got a small shout out. I got a lovely email from one of my old first officers, William, Will, those of us who don't want to use his full name, who was on his way in an Airbus to Delhi, and he happened to be going through the Moscow control zone, and Controller Vlad piped up and said, "Do you know Captain Nick?" And he said, yeah, I used to fly with him. So Controller Vlad very kindly passed on his best regards and warm wishes for my retirement, and I appreciate that very much indeed. Vlad, very kind of you. And here's a shout out to you and all the other Moscow controllers who looked after us so well when we go through their airspace. So thank you very much indeed for that. And also a shout out for my dad, Pop, who listens and I believe watches the show regularly, and is still doing very well indeed. So great to have you on board, Pop, and you keep going. We're hoping still to come out and see you before too long. In the meantime, I hope catching up with us on video will remind you of how ugly your youngest son is.
And how good he feels about how good looking he himself is.
Yes. That's why I grab beard. You should hide all those wrinkles and old bits.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, Controller Vlad, big part of our APG community over there, representing Russia. Woohoo.
Absolutely, yeah. Great.
I don't know if you noticed, Vlad, if you're listening now, but the last episode, I put in a couple of your individual recordings of some of those Moscow airports. Now, I don't think I got them in while we were recording live, but I did in post-editing. I was able to get those in.
Oh, yeah, I just listened to that show yesterday, and they came through very well indeed. So thanks very much indeed for that, Vlad. So what else have I been doing today? Well, tomorrow is finals day in the bowling club. So having fought my way through all the various rounds, I'm at least working to win 2 trophies tomorrow. Sadly, the championship trophy, which I lifted last year, all I've been able to do to that today is polish it in preparation for giving it back, because I'm not in the final for that this year. That'll go to somebody else. But I am in the handicap final, which I hold the highest number of shots I have to give to anyone in the club, which is a bit tough. But so I'm playing that tomorrow and also in one of the pairs. So I'm really looking forward to that, and perhaps I'll bring home some silver. You never know.
Oh, okay. That is fantastic. Can't wait to hear about the results of that on the next episode.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. If I don't mention anything, it's because I didn't
Then we
win.
just won't talk about it. So if he does well, we'll hear about it. If he doesn't,
Exactly right.
well, we'll just move on to something else.
And quite right too.
Steph is going to join us as soon as she gets back from work today. It's a Friday afternoon. We're recording on the 23rd of August, and typical Friday afternoon traffic that she's in right now. Also, Dana is not going to be able to join us today because he's on his Captain Dana birthday motorcycle trip ride, whatever he's calling it. I was looking on the community calendar, and he's got a big banner on there that says that he's on something like a 4-day adventure on the motorcycle with a bunch of other fellow pilot Harley Davidson riders. So he is unable to join us today. His birthday, by the way, is tomorrow, I believe, the 24th of August.
Does that
And-
make him a virgin like me?
Excuse me?
He's Virgo. Is that he?
Oh.
Virgo the Virgin.
I
Is-
hadn't thought of it. I guess he
I don't know
is.
whether he is, because I am, but which is
Yeah.
very apt considering the airline I worked for so many years.
Right. I don't know what the crossover is in the horoscope. If it's right around this time of month, isn't it? Like the 22nd, 23rd?
I would have thought so.
Yeah.
Now, you were very stalwart on our last show, carrying on not feeling well. Are you better now?
Oh, I'm so much better. Yeah, I limped myself home the next day and basically said, I think I can make it home, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have the stamina to do that last turnaround. It wasn't a bad turnaround, but it was just going to get me home late in the afternoon. And they said, oh, that's good. We can get somebody else to cover the trip for you, those last 2 legs from Atlanta to Columbus, Ohio, and back. And I said, thank you very much. So I just went home and basically went straight to bed. Took more aspirin / Advil, other NSAIDs or how do you say that? NSAIDs or something like that. Anyway,
I don't know. SAD
analgesics.
It's a seasonal affective disorder, isn't it?
Oh, well, that's not it then.
I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure those pills weren't for that.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, to try to get rid of my fever and headache, and it just wasn't going away. And I had the best I could do with the fever reduction analgesics was to get to a low grade fever, but at least it wasn't my fever was, or the temperature was in the 102 to 103 degree range. But don't worry, I was looking at all the symptoms of whatever I was experiencing, and one of the things that kept popping up was meningitis. And I went, but the thing that they said about that was pretty common for most people is like neck pain and the fact that you can't touch your chin to your chest. And so I tried that and I could do that and my neck really wasn't hurting. So I thought, I don't think I have meningitis. So I decided to not go see the urgent care folks and just kind of lie low. But I was like that for several more days. And so much so that I had to stay on sick leave for the 4-day trip that I was scheduled to do this week. So I've been
Oh, wow.
home basically
So
since
that has not
last
been
Friday.
good for you.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So-
Steph says that they're NSAIDs.
NSAIDs. Okay, that's the way you said it. Say it.
Apparently.
Thank you. So yeah, I've been feeling pretty much normal the last maybe 2-3 days or so. So thank you for asking. I'm much better now.
Well,
I know that
is
some of you
sort
are
of normal for you.
normal for me, which
Okay,
is
well, yeah, all right,
still kind of
well.
foggy and confused. But my normal foggy and confused. I had an enhanced version of confusion and fogginess when I was
Well,
having
you
whatever.
should have been doing a Cat 3 then.
Well, I did get my FAA physical this morning, and mentioned to the doctor. He had asked me if anything was going on with my health since the last time he saw me in February, and I said, well, as a matter of fact, just a few days ago. And so I told him about the whole thing. I said, I'm just assuming it was some sort of virus. And he said, probably so. And he said, but if you start getting those symptoms again, then, you need to go and have it checked out because it might be a symptom of something more serious happening with your body. But the thing that he was looking at on my charts, he's going, I know I've said this before. And he goes, knock on wood. But he said, so you're about to turn 61 this December and you're not on any kind of medication? And I said, yep. And he goes, well, hope you stay that way. He said, that's very, very uncommon for somebody my age. So
Yeah, I think
That's good.
you must be in excellent health, and somebody is looking after you.
well, I hope so. I try.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm good for another 6 months with my FAA Class 1 medical certificate. And my next trip is this Sunday. I normally don't fly on Sundays, but I needed to pick up some time. I ended up having to drop a trip at the end of the month and had to pick up something. So leaving on Sunday, and it's a 3-day. I get back on Tuesday. So that's pretty much what's been happening with me. Mostly just kind of lying around, sleeping, trying to kick whatever virus was going on in me, and that's it. Nothing
Yeah,
else
letting
special
your
going on.
body heal itself. Well done.
Exactly. Okay. Since Steph is still not with us, why don't we move on to the coffee fund if you're ready?
Yeah, certainly am, sir.
Let's do it.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea.
I love the APG
Community. Coffee and tea. And the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. All right. The Coffee Fund is your way, dear listener, to support the show financially. And if you have the resources to do so, you should check it out by going over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. A couple different ways to do it. The Coffee Fund Classic method via PayPal, where you can make recurring donations or one-time contributions to the show. Since the last episode, we've had recurring contributions from Terry Lou, Chris Randall, and David Lieb, and a one-time contribution from Randy Ward, who is in Italy right now with his wife enjoying a nice Italian vacation. The other way to support the show via the Coffee Fund is the Coffee Fund Patron method. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com, where you pledge a certain amount per episode. And since the last show, no new patrons. So kind of quiet on that front. But again, if you're interested in helping us out financially, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. And we will too.
Stand by for news.
Sad news in New Orleans on, just a few days ago. Nancy Parker, a journalist at Fox 8, which is a local news affiliate in New Orleans, was killed in a small plane crash. The pilot of the plane, Franklin J.P. Augustus, was also killed. They were shooting a story in a stunt plane. It's a Pitts 1983 Pitts S-2B aircraft. And just shortly after takeoff, it crashed about a half mile south of the airport. And I read an update to the story that said that the pilot had radioed the tower, indicating that there was some sort of problem with the engine. And the airplane went down, killing both Nancy and Franklin. And that's the only information I've been able to glean from that. But that's one of those high-profile things that, one of the sad things that you read and hear about, and you don't like to see. But it looks like she was making some effort to promote aviation, and it all went bad. And she was 53 years old and survived by her husband and 3 children. It didn't say anything about the age and family of the pilot of the aircraft.
That is so sad, isn't it, Jeff? Because there she is, just doing her job. It's probably a complete one-off trip. Mm-hmm. And the guy was a member of a Louisiana group that honored the Tuskegee
Airmen. Yeah.
Airmen. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he was obviously well known, obviously a good pilot. He had a fine airplane. And just awful to think that they both died doing something they both love, but I guess if you're going to go, that's better perhaps than some ways.
Yeah, true. Instead of a long, drawn-out illness or something. But still quite a shock, especially young. I think the pilot, the guy that supported the Tuskegee Airmen, was an older gentleman. Not that makes it any less tragic, but the news reporter was only 53. And I can say only 53 because I'm only 60. So, anyway, if we hear any updates on what caused the engine to fail, we'll let you know. Speaking of engine failures, this next item, B, from the poughkeepsiejournal.com, and also the, where do I get this? It's from the Aviation Safety Network. A Cessna T303 Crusader, November 303 Tango Lima, impacted a residential structure on South Smith Road in Unionvale, New York, shortly after departure from the Sky Acres Airport in New York. The plane first departed from Montgomery, Orange County Airport, New York, then stopped to refuel 40 miles away at this airport, the Sky Acres Airport, before continuing toward the East Farmingdale Republic Airport in New York, on Long Island, I believe. The aircraft was destroyed during the accident sequence. One of the 3 occupants aboard was fatally injured. The remaining occupants survived. The residential structure was occupied by 3 people. One is unaccounted for. One received fatal injuries, and the last one was not injured. There were also 3 dogs inside the house. One was found deceased. One puppy survived and will make a full recovery. And the last puppy is still missing. So hopefully they'll find that. Maybe it's still hiding. It was a twin-engine airplane, as I mentioned, Cessna T303. And I'm not sure exactly in the story here, did they mention what happened? Was it an engine failure?
Yeah, it says not long after the 6-seater plane left the airport, it had engine trouble, then went down, apparently.
Yeah. So I don't know if that is one engine, both engines, a fuel issue causing engine starvation or whatever, fuel starvation. We're not sure.
I don't know, but the crash site's only 2,000 feet south of the runway, so it didn't get very far.
No, it didn't. So that's all we know about this one. Again, the FAA and the NTSB will be investigating the cause of the crash.
Yeah, it's always tragic when people who really aren't involved in aviation get drawn into an accident like this. So the poor occupants of that house, very sad, because they're just sitting there going about their day when an airplane full of fuel plows in, and I'm particularly sad. I've got a very big soft spot in my heart for dogs, for any animals, because us humans, we're often more capable of getting out of the way or sorting ourselves out, and they're often left completely vulnerable in these sort of circumstances. And the fact that there's a puppy still missing is, I think, it's very sad. But
Yeah.
and of course, sadly, I think you've had a problem with your darling little dog, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Greta, the very, 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 very old dachshund that we ended up inheriting after my wife's mother passed away back in 2007. I thought it was 2009, but she said, nope, we have had Greta for longer than her mom had Greta. And we had her for 12 years. And her mom had... Well, Greta was like 19 years old, almost 20 years old.
Good Lord, that's a
And
remarkable age.
her health, I've mentioned it many times in the last few months, has been kind of taking a nosedive, so to speak. And mostly blind, mostly incontinent, mostly deaf, and, not living much of a life. And we learned the last checkup that she had lost a lot of weight, and she was probably in pain because of the dehydration and the lack of eating and that kind of thing. And then finally the decision was made that we should put her down. So sadly, she is no longer with us. And if there is a doggy heaven, hopefully she'll be in doggy heaven. So no more
Absolutely.
Greta.
A very sad thing for the family. I'm sure I used to giggle when I heard her yipping in the background, and you had to rush off upstairs to go and let her out again. But those days are gone now.
But honestly, she was quite a handful to take care of, as you can imagine. And so, in a certain way, it's kind of it's a nice thing that I think she's in a better place now. She's not in pain, and it's easier for everybody here as well. As far as not having to take care of her anymore. So
absolutely, it's often a very hard decision, but it's also often the best decision.
Yeah, and I know you've had to deal with this kind of thing as well this past year. So.
Absolutely, yeah. For us, it was easy.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to news item C. Wow, we're just really cracking on with these things here. Now, here, this is some positive, some happy news. You know, we talked about on the last show. It was breaking news. In fact, the miracle on the cornfield, we're calling it, the twin engine flame out of the A321, and they crashed in the cornfield successfully, and nobody was killed in this incident. This news item from the New Zealand Herald.co.New Zealand. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday awarded the nation's highest medal, the Hero of Russia, to the pilot who managed to smoothly land his disabled passenger plane in a cornfield after a flock of birds hit both engines and knocked them out. The experienced captain, 41-year-old Damir Yusupov, said Friday that a quick landing was his only chance, and he was not afraid of handling it. He said he had hoped to circle the airport and land normally when one engine shut down due to the bird strike moments after takeoff from Moscow's Zhukovsky Airport. But then his second engine cut off moments later, leaving him no choice. He landed his Ural Airlines A321 so gently in the head-high corn that just one of the 233 people on board was hospitalized. People all across Russia have hailed Yusupov as a hero. The accolades, he said, were embarrassing. It feels odd, and I'm shy, he said. Putin also awarded the Hero of Russia to the airplane's second pilot, 23-year-old Georgy Mertsin, and bestowed other top awards on the plane's cabin crew. I didn't feel any fear. Again, this is the captain quoted. He told reporters in a televised interview, I saw a cornfield ahead, hoped to make a reasonably soft landing. I tried to lower vertical speed to make the plane land as smoothly as possible and glide softly. Yusupov hailed his cabin crew, who managed to evacuate the passengers. He also apologized to passengers for failing to get them to their destination, which was...
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, he's very concerned about, sorry, I didn't really... I mean, that was what I was supposed to do, get you to Simferopol, or what did you call it? Smurfpol?
Smurfpol, yeah.
In Crimea. I wish a quick recovery to all those injured, and I wish them not to be afraid of flying, he added. Oh, this sounds like a really nice guy, doesn't it?
He does, absolutely.
He was concerned about them, wanting to ever get back on an airplane. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, if I'm on an airplane that crashes, I'm thinking, well, what are the chances of that happening again?
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
pretty slim to none.
Mind
right?
you, I've seen a bit of video of some bloke being struck by lightning 3 times in a row.
Well,
So,
never mind that.
yeah,
I wouldn't mention it to the people that were on this airplane.
probably not a good idea.
Let's see. The Emergencies Ministry said 74 people asked for medical assistance after the landing. Health authorities said 23 people were taken to the hospital, but all but one was released following the checkups. Let's see. Yusupov was the son of a helicopter pilot. He worked as a lawyer before he changed course and joined a flight school when he was 32. He has flown with Ural Airlines since his graduation in 2013, logging over 3,000 flight hours. He became a captain last year. Now, this sounds very similar to the timeline of someone we know in our APG community, Captain Craig, right? Didn't he?
Absolutely.
I think he graduated from college in 2012 and just a couple of months or last month became captain for his regional airline. And yeah, that's cool. So it even happens over there in Russia where the people get the bug. They quit a promising mid-life career and go for a flying job.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea. And if there are anyone else out there with a pretty boring profession who wants to turn their hand to aviation, don't leave it too late. But, 32 is not too late at all.
Yep. Okay. Well, the article goes on to talk about a former member of the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, John Goglia, said the bird versus engine problem has been under study for years with no permanent fix available yet. He said a cornfield was a good place to land because it's free of big rocks and trees that could have damaged the plane. I mean, yeah, I really can't think of much better unprepared landing surface to land upon than some kind of a crop like a corn field or something like that.
Absolutely. And there's been some indication that the birds were flocking around unauthorized garbage dumps near the airport. So,
Oh, those flocking birds.
yeah,
What are you going to do?
absolutely. Horrible damn things. So I'm sure they're going to go and sort that out too, sweet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They'll be right on that.
Yeah. Well, perhaps in the short term they definitely will, but
They should.
yeah, exactly right. But I mean, they are a problem, and whether they, you've got an airfield near an estuary, or they're just passing through, and that's often the way with those big migrating flocks like the Canada geese who go up and down the UK, and they're starting to head north already. So, and they're usually around 1,000, 1,500 feet. They can be a real problem. I know a mate of mine who very nearly lost his Phantom when he ingested a bunch of geese on short finals, but he managed to get it to the runway. So, well done, Walter. He's now a very good captain with British Airways.
Oh, good. All right, moving on. Item D, a Delta 757-200 at Ponta Delgada on August 18th, 2019. Hard touchdown causes creases in fuselage. This is from the Aviation Herald and Simon Radecki. Let's see. It was flight 414 from New York, JFK, to Ponta Delgada in Portugal. Landed on Ponta Delgada's runway 12. This was in the Azores, I believe. Suffered a hard touchdown. The aircraft rolled out and taxied to the apron. There were no injuries. The aircraft sustained substantial damage, however. And there are some photos here of the 757 with the very large wrinkled skin creasing in the fuselage. And, I'm not an aviation fuselage expert, but it looks to me like this might be it for this airframe. I don't know. I guess maybe that's something that they can fix. I'm not sure, though.
Well, I don't know whether it's going to be economic. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can fix almost any airplane if they throw enough money at it. But I don't know about the age of the aircraft and what its worth is now. But that sort of damage is indicative of major airframe and major structural damage. So, yeah, you don't get creases and folds in the skin like that without something severe having occurred underneath. So I think you're right, Jeff. I think they will probably strip this for parts, and it may well end up being, something that the firemen can practice on.
Or maybe beer cans.
Yeah. Or I'm sure if you look at that website that sells you bits of aeroplane, you'll be able to see a 757-200 there. You can buy some of the skin and have it on as a bag tag. There you go.
That's possible. Looking at the weather conditions there, let's see. First of all, 8:38Z. That would be probably early in the morning for that flight. Would it be?
Yes, it would have been early in the morning, but not a conditions I would consider difficult, other than the wind varying a little bit. But
yeah, but not a lot of wind, really.
No, only 12 knots, mainly across. So.
Steady.
And no sign. What's that? Scattered T? Or is that supposed to be scattered?
Yeah, scattered.
1,000 scattered at 4,000. I thought for a minute it might be towering, but it's not.
No,
so
just regular scattered.
There's no mention of any
cumulonimbus or anything?
Nope. No build-up. So
no gusts?
Nope. I would have said that's fairly benign. So it sounds to me like it might have been a handling problem. Or perhaps there was a fault with the aircraft. I don't know.
Never know. But anyway, nothing really stands out to us as far as extreme weather conditions here.
No.
Going back to the possibility of, whether that airframe is going to be used again or, repaired or scrapped, I guess maybe another consideration would be whether or not it ruptured any of the pressure bulkheads of the airplane. And if that's the case, I hear that's pretty much the death knell.
Yeah, that Yeah, almost certainly. You don't really want to. Oh, I hate to think of flying an airplane with a repaired bulkhead because you think of the accidents that have occurred years down the road with aircraft that where their pressure bulkhead has eventually fatigued and failed. Some awful accidents. So I'm suppose if they do everything fine, and Boeing are pretty good at that sort of thing, they'll come up with a fix if they want one. But the other thing is, who's going to go out there to fix it? It's not like it's near a major maintenance centre, so it may not be even worthwhile sending the guys out there.
Right. Oh, look at this.
Whoa! It's a lobster eater.
Yes.
You hear that music? That means from her lakeside studio in South Carolina, she's a doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot. We know her as Dr. Steph.
Hey guys, good to see you.
Hi,
Thanks for waiting to start the show for me. Oh wait.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no problem.
We just started the show.
Yeah. I know. Right, I'm right on time. No, we knew I would not be here on time tonight.
Yeah, come on now. We had planned it that way, right?
I know we did.
Okay.
We did.
Making,
I'm just kidding.
making me feel bad.
Just kidding.
Well,
Very
how
nice
are
to see
you?
both. I'm good. Just finished up with work and looking forward to relaxing and not doing work for a couple days. So
Excellent,
looking forward to a
excellent.
great show tonight.
Hey, has anything unusual or interesting happened with you, let's say, between now and the last time we recorded the show, last Thursday?
I don't think so.
No, okay. Well, then let's move on with item...
No, I think I
Hang
wasn't
on a
able to
minute.
be on the show last Thursday. if
Yeah,
I
well,
recall correctly.
we had some issues, some technical issues with this new streaming service that we're experimenting with, but luckily, hey, we can hear her today, so that's good. Of course,
Bonus.
you were
Yep.
panelist number 4 last time, so hopefully, who knows what's going on, but
That's the don't be number 4.
yeah, don't be
'cause you-
number 4.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, but I can hear you just fine and see you just fine, and that's good. So we were having issues with adding Steph, but honestly, we weren't going to have Steph on with us very long anyway because she was busy in final preparation for this big trip that she was undertaking, and I'm assuming that all happened. And why don't you tell us about it?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I did put out a couple crew logs. I have one left to do to kind of tie it all up, but I might get to that a couple years from now.
3
3?
crew logs were
Oh
published.
my
Can
God!
you believe
you're,
it?
You're like you're like
they were-
London,
they were
London
brief
buses.
ones.
You don't see one for years, and then 3 come along at once.
Hey, take what you can get. Like
I'm not
don't-
complaining.
Don't complain.
I'm not.
Yeah, so this was a kind of just a fun thing to do. For a long time, my dad and I have been going back and forth between who will be the first person to put their feet on the ground in all 50 states. And for a very long time, he's been in the lead by quite a bit. He has only had the state of Hawaii for the past several years that he actually needed to get to, which doesn't sound that difficult, but Hawaii is a long way from the east coast of the United States. So finally, the opportunity came up, and he booked a flight. And I said, "Oh, okay. Where does that leave me in this race? Oh, I still have 11 states to get to."
Now, honestly, at that point, I would have said there is absolutely no way that I could
Yeah, I'd
possibly
have put my
compete
hand
at this
up,
point.
gone, okay,
Yeah.
you win. Have
No,
a beer or whatever.
Never,
It's not
never
Steph.
give up. Never say never. Never surrender. Never die. No. So I started looking. I'm like, well, all right. Well, they're kind of all in a row. And by in a row, I mean all the way across the country. So that was Oregon,
Sort of.
Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, Oklahoma, Kansas, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Maine. I think I got them all. Is that 11?
I don't know. I wasn't counting.
Did that include Arkansas?
No, I've already been to Arkansas.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I think Arkansas is a different.
That's the
Sure.
53rd
Not
state.
sure, but yes. No, I've been to Little Rock for a conference actually. It's good times.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, one of those. Oh, yeah, okay.
So yeah, the goal was to get it done in a weekend because he was arriving in Hawaii on Sunday evening. I think local time in Hawaii at the time he arrived was like 7:20 or 7:50 p.m., which is like 1:20 or 1:50 in the morning the next day here on the East Coast. So that was my deadline. So I left here almost immediately after I talked to you guys on Thursday last week, and I took a flight out to Portland, Oregon, which I decided was going to be my starting point. And then the following day had a series of flights that took me to Idaho, Montana, and North Dakota, with intermediate stops through Seattle and Salt Lake City. 'Cause can't get from one of those states to the other very easily without going through kind of a major hub city. And once I got to North Dakota, I rented a car and drove to South Dakota and back, just to say I'd been there, which was about an hour's drive each direction. And spent the night in Fargo, North Dakota, got up the next morning. Another series of flights that took me to ultimately Wichita and Memphis. And I'll get to why I went to, you're saying, wait, Steph, Memphis is in Tennessee. That's not a state that you need to go to. I'll get to that. So to get to Wichita, I had to go through Denver. So I had a nice little stopover in Denver. I got to Wichita, which is in Kansas, which was one of the states I needed. Same thing as like in North and South Dakota. Rented a car, drove to Oklahoma, turned around, went back to the airport in Wichita. And then I was going to go to Memphis, which is actually very close to the border of Mississippi and also Arkansas, or Arkansas, as Nick likes to call it. But I didn't go to Arkansas even. Flew from Wichita through Dallas to get to Memphis. And my plan from there was to rent a car, drive south across the border into Mississippi, drive overnight through part of Tennessee, all of Kentucky, and into West Virginia. Excuse me. I was going to go as far as Huntington, West Virginia, to catch another flight, which would ultimately take me to Maine via Charlotte. And got off the plane in Memphis and found that my flight from Huntington, West Virginia to Charlotte had been canceled. So that was not a good thing.
Boo.
Boo. So,
which airline cancelled your flight?
American Airlines.
Boo.
Or probably
I'm not sure which regional it was.
Probably regional
It was a
affiliate.
regional for sure, and I don't remember which one. Doesn't matter. So anyway, they said, well, no worries. We've already saved you a seat on this other flight if you would like it. Leaving from Charleston, West Virginia, going through D.C. and getting to Portland, Maine at like 4:30 in the afternoon on Sunday. I said, well, that's not really ideal because I have plans in Maine. My plans were to meet up with Micah, who lives in Portland, spend the day with him, do some sightseeing around town, have some of the aforementioned lobster, some nice local beers. I was like, well, if I get there at 4:30, I'll have time to catch my flight back home, but not enough time to do anything. So I started looking real quick. This is all while we're like taxiing to the gate. And before I even get off the plane, I see that there's a flight out of Charleston, West Virginia, at the same time as my original flight was supposed to leave out of Huntington, which is like 5:30 in the morning. Except that I had given myself enough time to drive to Huntington. Charleston is like another hour east. I'm like, well, I think I can
Rent
do
a
that.
faster car.
Rent a faster car. Well, there's the other problem. So I was supposed to return the rental car to Huntington, West Virginia. So I'm like, well, okay. Well, this is only going to work if I can take the car to Charleston instead of Huntington.
That was originally a one-way.
It was a
rental
one-way
anyway,
rental.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. So I get to the rental car counter. I said, hi, I have a reservation, but I need to make a change. And the guy goes, oh, are you taking it out of state? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, no, you have to call. I'm like, I was already taking it out of state. I'm not changing the state. I just need to change the city. He's like, oh, okay, we could do that. And then it was like a geography lesson for this poor kid trying to get him to know where Charleston, West Virginia was. Because he took a look at my...
Does he not come from America?
Yeah,
No.
he does. The problem
My
is there's more
geography
than
is
one
not-
Charleston.
I thought perhaps he was
When
some
you-
poor immigrant.
No, when you say like Charleston in this country, most
Yeah.
people think of South Carolina.
South Carolina. And then it only added to his confusion because I handed him my driver's license, which says South Carolina. So he was very unsure where I was trying to go for a few moments there, but we got it all squared away. Like, okay, I really don't have time. He's like, how about this car? I was like, that's fine. I don't even think that's what I rented, but I don't care. I don't have time to like argue this. Like, just have to get in the car and go. So I did that, made my stop in Mississippi, and then I was like, okay, I've got just under 8 hours. And I'm looking at the time. I'm like, that puts me there like an hour before my flight leaves, barely, if I don't stop. I'm like, I'm going to have to stop because I'm going to need gas. I'm going to need like a physiologic break, I'm sure. I'm not going to eat, apparently. I had plans to like stop in, where was I going to stop? Somewhere in Tennessee. Nashville, maybe, and get food. So I tossed those plans out the window. I was like, nah.
You could have gone to the biscuit gravy breakfast place we went to.
Yeah, the Nashville Biscuit
Company.
Company. or
At,
whatever
like-
it's called. Yeah.
8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, they're 24 hours a day.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. So, but long story short, I made it. Shout out to dispatcher Mike for, he was at work. He chatted to me for a while during that drive, which was very helpful in keeping
Kept
me
you awake?
Because I'll tell you what, most of that drive in Kentucky was along the Bluegrass Parkway, which is different than the Blue Ridge Parkway. And there were not a lot of vehicles out there from the hours of 11 p.m. to about 3 a.m.
A little quiet.
Very quiet.
Well,
very
that's
quiet.
good. You could do 150 miles an hour. No one will
No,
spot you.
no, because there were still plenty of state troopers and whatnot all along the way.
Yeah,
so-
don't they count as people?
Also, I was really terrified about hitting wildlife because I passed lots and lots of deer not too far from the side of the road, so there was no speeding. I did drive.
All right. Very
the
good.
legal speed limit. And got to Charleston, West Virginia. Returning the car was a breeze because there was no one there to actually talk to because they weren't open yet. So I just left the car in the parking lot, put the keys in the key box. Got to the TSA check-in, and it looked like there was only one line. It wasn't terribly long, but it wasn't moving. Like, okay. And then after standing in line for like 3 or 4 minutes, all of a sudden one of the, it wasn't even a TSA officer. It was, gosh, who was it? Just like some security personnel in the airport was like, oh, by the way, there is a TSA line like way, or pre-check line way over here that you can't see from where you are if you have pre-check. And I was the only person that moved. I was like, great.
Well done.
Excellent. So yeah, made my flight no problem. Promptly passed out. Don't remember any of that flight. Spent a couple hours in the Charlotte airport, which was great because I just dropped my bags back at my car. And then I went back to the lounge, found a nice comfy chair, slept for a couple hours, got on my next flight, and spent the rest of the day in Portland, Maine with Micah.
Eating
Lobsters.
lobsters.
Well, you know what? I think we might have actually some audio regarding that visit with Micah. Shall I play it?
Sure.
Okay. Here we go.
Well, there's only one way to start this, and I've just got to tell all APG listeners that Dr. Steph has a great piece of tail. Okay, let me explain that. I'll let Steph explain that.
I think you're referring to the 3 lobster tails that I just consumed.
Absolutely, positively. You just managed to do it. I think you may have even outperformed our good friend Captain Al. You have eaten 3 entire lobsters, plus
Plus a few of the clams. I didn't quite get through all of them, but I had to try them. I mean, I'm here. I'm in Maine. Might as well, right?
absolutely. And you should just take a bite of the corn just to say you had the complete thing.
I will do that, definitely.
So yes, it's Dr. Steph, and it's your main man, Micah. And we are here at Ocean Farms, here in Gorham, Maine, the scene of the crime where Dana and I last met. And now where I have brought Dr. Steph, who is a lobster eater extraordinaire.
Yes, to be fair, though, I have never had authentic Maine lobster like this before. It's always been in I hesitate to even say in here, like Red Lobster or better legal seafood, but not necessarily, not the same experience at all. This was very special and wonderful, and thank you very much for the recommendation and bringing me here.
Well, fortunately, the restaurant is pretty close to empty so that no one has heard you say that. But lobster is very much like surgery. Did you notice? It's see one, do one, teach one, and now you're ready to teach.
It absolutely is. It was definitely an educational experience for me because, as I mentioned, my previous, even though it was fairly extensive lobster experience, has all been at prepared for you establishments. And this is definitely the authentic deal where you just have the lobster and yourself, and you got to figure it out.
Now, just one last thing, because this is going to be very short, but what we really need to say is what you're doing in Maine, and what does Maine mean to you in terms of the number 50?
So Maine, oh, I was going to say something about it being last place here, but that's not fair at all. Let's rephrase, shall we? No, this had to do with a little trip I took this weekend in an attempt to put my feet on the ground in the 11 states that I had not yet been to. So I started 3.5 days ago, Thursday evening in Portland, Oregon, that other Portland, which maybe we perhaps should not say anything else about, and ended here today in Portland, Maine, with you.
And it's so wonderful to see you. And it's only been a few hours, but we've had a great experience. Glad to be able to watch you eat some lobster, which we have some photos of. We don't know if Jeff will use them or not, but we'll certainly send them to him. And thanks so much for coming to visit.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having making the time to show me around today, and for the few hours of good conversation. And we'll have to do it again sometime because this was not nearly enough time to catch up and enjoy each other's company.
And hopefully we will. So as I sign out, specifically for Pilot Pip, this is your not creepy main man, Micah, signing off.
And it's Dr. Steph for the Airline Pilot Guy.
He's just jealous, that's all. Pip, I'm
I
talking
love
about.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. And if Steph wants to say anything, she's going to have to press the button.
You mean that mute button?
Yeah, that's the one. Well done, Steph.
It shows up in a different place on this new
Yeah, it's a
Fangle
different-
StreamYard. I mean, to be fair, it's like right in front of me, but I'm looking for it like in the corner.
It's just too easy.
Yeah. No, that was a wonderful time. And again, my thanks to Micah for showing me around and for accompanying me while I had to try the authentic Maine lobsters. And we had a very nice, you saw the other picture there was from a local brewery. Good beers, good IPAs.
Excellent. Now, 3 lobsters.
Yeah.
So, do you have them with butter or what?
No. Well, I mean, there is butter on the side, like melted butter that you could dip or spread on it.
Well, I
To
hope
help
you
them
used
slide
that, right?
down.
I'm sorry. I hope that you used that melted butter.
A little bit.
Okay.
I mean, you really, the lobster itself is so good, you don't really need to add much to it.
True.
No.
Good point.
So that's something I've yet to do, and I would love to. And in fact, I think Julie and I will probably head out that way one day because I think it'd be a lovely idea.
Well, we
you
know
should.
somebody that's a very gracious, hospitable host.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's that?
I can't think of his name, but lives up in that area somewhere.
I can highly recommend. Excellent. Not creepy, Micah. Definitely not creepy. I was going to say something else too. Oh, I was going to say my dad did make it to Hawaii.
Okay.
He arrived
Too
on
late.
time.
Too late, she
Too
cried.
late. I almost feel bad. Like a little bit.
So
No,
now
you don't.
what would have kept him from, if it were me, if I were your
Yeah, I
dad,
just left a couple of days early.
that's what I would change my plans and say, you think
Yeah.
you're going to beat me? I'll leave
Oh,
on Thursday or Friday instead of
this
Sunday.
is
or
why I did
whatever.
not divulge my plans in advance.
Oh, I would have figured it out.
What, doesn't he listen to the APG?
Apparently not.
Well, that'll teach him.
Well, I mean, I did have sitting on my, he apparently did not venture into my office, which sometimes he does because there's filing cabinets and stuff up here. I don't know where it went. But I did have like little scraps of paper where I had been writing down flight numbers and times, like all over the place. I had
probably
one somewhere
knew.
here where I had it like all written out.
Well, did he
thought-
like wonder where you were, like on Thursday night, Friday? You're not there all day.
No, because what he had done, he left earlier in the week because he made it kind of into more of a road trip. He went out to out west to see some family members for a couple of days, so he was not here.
Well, you see, I would have given you a false date when I was going to arrive at Hawaii and let you think you had more time, and then I'll just pitch up and go, I'm here.
Yeah, well, so the competition starts again though because now he has officially been to one more Hawaiian island than I have.
Oh, God.
So now I'm
really?
behind again.
Oh, no.
To Hawaii, to
He's been to
islands
more
count?
Canadian provinces than I have.
Oh,
He's landed at more.
How about countries? I bet you've been to
No,
more
I've been
than-
to more countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh well,
Yeah. There are more
that-
competitions to be had. Don't worry.
fair enough.
Well, we know you,
well,
Steph. There's always a competition to be had.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad I'm not part of your family because I don't think I could cope with this.
Oh, it's all in good fun. All in
I'd be
good
go, okay,
I bet.
whatever.
I bet.
You win.
fun. Yeah. But if anyone needs reviews of, airline experiences, I flew 3 different airlines, multiple different aircraft types, and I feel like I should do a. Is Nev doing his passenger experience thing anymore? I don't think he is.
I haven't
Oh
heard
well,
it
I'm
in a while.
sure he'd do one for you. He'd be
Do I?
delighted.
It's like 737, CRJ 900, CRJ 200, CRJ 700. I did fly on an MD-88. That was
Oh,
good.
brilliant! Well done.
I hope it was a good experience.
Yeah, it was good. I think. I
Were
slept
you
for
down
most
the
of it.
back with the noise or up
No,
the front
no, I was at the front
in
end.
whisper quiet
Yes,
mode?
yes.
Yeah.
Well done. Oh,
mean-
well, that's brilliant. Congratulations, anyway.
you.
And,
Yeah.
and well done. I suppose there are that many folk in the United States who've actually managed to do what you've achieved. Stand on
Yeah,
all
it's not
52
as common
states.
as you would think. Although some people, their definition of to visit a state is somewhat different than just the geographical put your feet across the border type of thing. But rest assured, I'll probably go back to most of those places at some point, see more stuff.
Good. Even Arkansas?
I saw enough in Arkansas. I saw
Okay,
Little Rock.
fair enough.
It is a beautiful state, actually.
It is actually, and actually one of my very good friends, and actually my very first flight instructor. They live north of Arkansas, and I've been meaning to go visit them, or north of Little Rock.
North of
in
Little Rock.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I meant.
and the Ozarks,
Maybe
or up that way.
up that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like beautiful.
it is.
Beautiful area.
Really is. Well, excellent. We're so happy that you won the challenge and that you're safe and sound and you didn't kill yourself trying to beat your father.
No. All the appropriate safety precautions were taken. I'm not sure what they were, but
Excellent.
Safety
and not
second.
one speeding ticket. We're impressed.
nope.
Wow. I am impressed. Okay. Shall we didn't really have a big intro segment. We were kind of waiting for you and all the cool stuff that you did. We
I
started.
guess I could say a little bit.
Okay.
I should back up. I don't remember how much of this I talked about in the crew logs because I did most of those at like 1:00 in the morning after traveling all day. So if I'm reduplicating myself here, I apologize. But if you ever find yourself with extra time in the Billings, Montana airport, you should leave the airport, go across the street to the Yellowstone County Museum. Kind of an interesting little quirky place with free admission and nice way to spend a little bit of time. And I think there was something else I wanted to say, but now I can't remember.
What was the most, of the 11 states that you went to, and I know that we have people probably listening from most, if not all, which one was your favorite?
Uh-oh. This is... Ooh.
It's a
This
dangerous
could be a
territory.
yeah,
Dangerous
exactly.
territory. Well, it's a little of an unfair question because I didn't
Yeah.
spend equal time in all of those places, but
True.
certainly the highlight was spending a little bit of time in Maine with Micah, and Portland was absolutely gorgeous. We saw a couple different lighthouses. The town is really cute, friendly people, good food, good beer. Can't beat any of that, so can't go wrong.
True. All right. Well, are you ready to move on then to, we had started the news folder, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
I've been listening to most of it, so
Okay.
I'm caught up, I think.
All right. I think we just finished talking about the 757 that had the hard landing in the Azores, and we're trying to decide whether we thought it was going to be able to fly again or if it's going to be a totaled
Yeah,
airframe.
The pictures don't look.
They don't look
great.
good.
No, looks
Um,
not promising.
Anyway, we can move on to item E. Plane erupts in flames after a failed takeoff at Oroville Airport, and that's in, I believe, Northern California. Yeah, Cessna 560 XL Citation XL suffered a runway excursion after an aborted takeoff at Oroville Airport in California. A fire broke out in the grass beside the aircraft. After all 10 occupants had been evacuated or had evacuated the aircraft, the fire spread and engulfed the aircraft. It was being operated by Delta private jets. And, one of the news articles here kind of makes it sound like the reason why they stopped the takeoff was because it was on fire. But I think that the fire came about as a result of the aborted takeoff and subsequent runway excursion. And looked very, very dry up there, the pictures that I saw. So, if you have some hot breaks, I can imagine it would be very easy to start the grass fire and eventually, engulf the airplane in fire as well. But we're not sure exactly yet. They're still doing the investigation. But the good news is that all of the passengers made it off the airplane, including the pilots as well. So no fatalities on this.
Well, that's the important bit, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I mean, losing the aircraft is a real shame. I must admit, when I saw the video, I was thinking to myself, all those safety personnel, they're there, and everything around them, all the grass is on fire. It does not actually look very safe area to be, So I'm assuming they all managed to get away from the area without any injuries. So I guess well handled, but not nice to have a runway excursion and then have a big fire spread, and not just around the aircraft, but of course around the surrounding area of the airfield.
Yeah. So again, no idea yet why the pilots made the decision to abort the takeoff, but I think the airplane was pretty much destroyed. And
Oh, yes.
hopefully we'll
So,
learn
yeah.
something from this after the investigation. By the way, just an update on the other citation incident. It was a landing incident, the one involving the race
Dale
car.
Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, Dale Jr. Up in Elizabethton, Tennessee.
Mhm.
I guess there's some surveillance video that shows that the airplane came down and touched down and right around the landing threshold area, bounced once, bounced twice, and then on the third bounce, the right main gear collapsed, the right wing tip hit the runway. I think it was only about 1,000 feet from the end of the runway at that point. Ended up doing an excursion down an embankment, up an embankment, through some chain link fence, and a lot more. So it must have been quite a ride, and luckily everybody got out of that alive. But still no indication of why they suffered the bad bounce.
It's
Never made it.
amazing how often those bounce landings are mishandled.
Mm-hmm.
People try to salvage a situation when the aircraft is now, well back up in the air again at a much lower speed than it was when it made their first arrival. And very few pilots are willing at that point to go, well, I need power, let's go around from here, because that's the only way we're going to salvage the situation. It's surprising how many persist in trying to make a bad situation good by trying to make a second landing. And quite honestly, you're a lot safer getting the power on and getting the airplane flying again.
I think there was something in the narrative about the pilots tried to go around after the second bounce.
Yeah, after the second
After
bounce.
this, so not after the first one, but after the second one, they
Right.
tried to, but were unable to do so successfully at that point.
It's a shame.
Had they made the attempt on the first, after the first bounce, perhaps they would have been more successful.
Yeah. At least the power would have helped cushion the second bounce, so they
Right.
might have got less damage.
All right. And then finally, item F in our news folder. This, again, from the Aviation Herald and Simon Radecki. This was something that occurred on the 16th of August in Masai Mara, somewhere in Africa.
I think it's the Masai Mara. is the way
Okay.
it's generally pronounced.
How again?
Masai Mara.
Okay, Masai Mara in Kenya, I believe. And it was a de Havilland Dash 8 200, registration 5 Yankee Sierra Lima Mike, performing scheduled flight number 1 from Nairobi Wilson to Masai Mara, Kichwa Tembo. Landed at Kichwa Tembo airstrip in westerly direction at about 11 o'clock local time, but collided with a number of gnus, which are also known as wild beasts.
Wildebeests, right?
Good news.
Pardon?
Wild beasts or
Or
wildebeests?
wildebeest,
How
I'm
do you pronounce
sorry.
that? Yeah.
Wildebeest.
Yeah, good news and wildebeest.
Wildebeest.
Gnu?
That's right.
Or a gnu.
Okay, gnu. They're
New?
Scottish.
New?
Well,
I
you-
would have said new.
I say new,
No,
but
they're-
is it gnu? Well,
No.
I don't know. I think we have some audio from
Experts.
the area. Let me see. Somebody was had a field recorder shortly after this accident.
I'm a gnu. I'm a gnu. The nicest work of good nature in the zoo.
So apparently it's gnu. That's from one of the gnus on the scene that actually wasn't killed.
A lucky one. And then he felt like bursting into song about it. Yeah.
Well, I didn't really say what happened here, did I, yet? Yeah, well, we talked about the GNU strike on the landing or news strike. Caused the left main gear to collapse and separate from the aircraft. The left propeller impacted the ground, ejecting one blade. The aircraft veered off the runway. There were no injuries. I beg to differ. The aircraft sustained substantial damage.
No, they're just sleeping. Those canoes are just sleeping, Jeff. It's just a hot
it's
afternoon,
so sad that they included the pictures of the. Aw.
I know. I guess I didn't need to include that, did I? I could have not had a picture of the canoes.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
But it's nice to see the tire tracks didn't, upset them too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, no human injuries or fatalities. Unfortunately, there was a loss of 2 of these wildebeests. As I said in the title of this news item, I knew it.
Bit of damage to the plane, too.
I can
did.
do it. Yes.
I knew it.
I knew it.
All
So
right.
is that the show title this week?
Could be.
I can do it.
You want it to be?
I like it.
Yeah, I can.
I think it has to be.
I can work with a canoe.
Okay. Let's do it.
Don't use
Yeah.
the poor deceased ones, please.
Yeah. Live news there. Okay. With that, I guess now it's time for us to move on to your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
All right. Item 1 from Brett Fry. Remember, we met Brett Fry at Oshkosh. He's a producer of the APG. And let's see. He says, hey there. It was great to be able to meet you all at Oshkosh this year. It's fun to see the reactions of the first-time visitors like you were this year. Oh, okay. So it was interesting for him to see the reactions from those of us who had never experienced Oshkosh before. So he says, when I was working/volunteering in the South 40 parking airplanes, we had a great view of all the aircraft arriving on runway 36, including when the C-5 arrived. I had only heard brief comments the next morning about this fire that they had on the C-5's brakes after landing. There is a video in this link that shows the event. As we all know, there are many incidents and events that occur each year at Oshkosh, and it seems that nothing is out of view of some recording device. And then he gave us a link to an AvWeb article, which has the recording in it, and we'll put that in the show notes for you all to see. And basically, it's taken from the vantage point of the nose area of the airplane, pointed back, and it looks like one of the right main wheel assemblies on the C-5 got a little bit warm and was on fire, and a fire truck arrived and sprayed it and put it out. And so apparently they say that it wasn't too extensive because the C-5 continued to go on static display there at the show. So apparently they weren't too concerned. It must not have done a lot of damage.
No, but we were. There were a few of us who were waiting for the short takeoff landing show to begin that evening,
Absolutely.
and they had to, and they ended up canceling that portion of the
Oh.
show because the fire rescue folks were tied up with this incident.
Ah,
at the same
this
time.
is what was happening then
Yeah.
when they
Yep.
canceled that on whatever night that was.
That was,
Thursday
I think,
night?
Thursday night.
Yeah.
Which was a shame because we'd made
Yes.
it was a long walk.
Yeah, it was. I was
get down
disappointed.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did get to see it the next night. I went back on Friday night and saw the short takeoff
I couldn't
landing.
do that walk twice. It was way too far for an old man.
It was, what, a mile?
It was too much. There was
It
a
was
lot of
not-
drinking to be
it
done.
was-
Yes, exactly. That's really the problem.
was
It was
miles
interfering
and
with other
miles and miles.
extracurricular activities.
It was a mile from the bus stop. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Uh-huh. I have GPS data from my watch.
Yeah,
Well, let's not argue,
well,
kids.
Yeah.
that
No,
watch,
but anyway,
I wouldn't
it
trust
was
your
just kind of
watch.
interesting because we were sitting around for a while and we didn't really know why they were delaying the start of the short takeoff landing competition.
So
So
then
then finally they
we
did say-
watched a bunch of guys with flying lawnmowers instead,
Yes,
didn't
basically.
we?
Actually, I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of fun.
That was
Yeah.
amazing, actually. It was
Yeah.
like, wow,
Little powered parachute backpack thingies.
that was neat. And then after that, they had the RC models out there doing crazy things.
Yep.
Mad skills.
Very good. All very professional there.
Yes. Well, thank you, Brett. It was nice meeting you up at Oshkosh. Hope to see you again sometime in the future. And thanks for being a producer of the show. Item number 2 from Ham Radio Jim. He's also a producer. He says, I thought you'd all find this interesting, especially Captain Nick. This has been, so far, my only life experience with GA aircraft. I had a ride in a Piper Cub when I was 10 years old out of Mattatuck Airport, 21 North. I don't know where that is.
November.
Well, that's a circle around the globe, 21
Oh,
north.
21 November?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. What does that mean?
It's a GA airport. So it's on Long Island, East Hampton.
Oh, okay.
Or wait, no.
Gotcha. That's the name of
on.
the airport. So it'd be
Yeah.
like Kilo 21
It's
November.
Mattatuck, New York, Long Island.
Okay, Long Island.
Long
That's
Island.
where they drink a lot of tea, isn't it, on Long Island?
You don't want to drink too much Long Island tea.
Long Island iced tea.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, the iced tea. That'll get to you pretty quickly. Anyway, he says 73 Jim, Whiskey 2 November Sierra Foxtrot. And I'm not a ham radio guy, so I can't come back at you, Jim, with my call sign.
Well,
But
73s means, goodbye and good wishes. And that's his call, yeah.
Right.
Whiskey
What's yours?
Mike 1 Charlie Quebec uniform. M1 CQU.
okay, 73s. And he sent a link to a show, something like the History Guy or something like that. A gentleman who does YouTube videos on various things in history, and this one happens to be on the Venerable Piper Cub. And so we'll put that link in the show notes for you all to watch it if you so
Yeah,
desire.
took a look at that. Very professional, very impressed. Nice bloke. And he got a great speaking voice and puts out a good show. But I think he's got a fairly professional team that helps him. Well, I may be wrong because it does seem very well produced.
And he wears a bow tie.
Yeah, that's a worry, isn't it?
That's very professional.
You
Is he
think
a
I could put a bow
neurologist?
tie on? It might perhaps go with my T-shirt, but
I
a
think
lot
it
of
would make-
doctors wear bow ties, don't they? Steph?
Neurologists. Lots of neurologists wear
Oh, is that
bow ties,
right? Is
and
that
I don't
'cause
know
they don't
why.
The
like
nerve
their-
of those
it's
people.
They don't like their tie dipping into the brain.
Well, I mean,
matter.
it
Is
makes-
that what it is?
Well, that's the neurosurgeons, I think. They're a little different, but
Okay.
I don't know. It seems to be fashionable amongst them.
No, I think neurologists, they deal with people who are a bit. I shouldn't go there, actually. I'll stop right now.
Okay.
We'll do a tutorial after the show about what neurologists do and who they take care of.
Okay. Are there people that would grab hold of their ties and try and strangle them?
No.
Okay. So I can't see why they would wear bow ties then.
Nick
I'm gonna
at
get some
airlinepilotguy.com.
angry feedback from
Nick
neurologists.
at airlinepilotguy.com.
I'm just making an observation. I know
Mm-hmm.
a number of neurologists. They all seem to favor the bow tie.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Very spiffy looking.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to item number 3. Arun says, "Hey, Captain Jeff, so you've inspired me to start my own aviation YouTube channel, and it's called Mini Air Crash Investigation, where I analyze an air crash or incident each episode. Since you flew the L-1011, I'm sure you'd love this story about an L-1011 crew that landed a crippled L-1011. Let me know what you think." And he has a link here to his YouTube channel. Again, that's Mini Air Crash Investigation. And let's see, I can play maybe just a little bit, just a little snippet for you so you can kind of get an idea of what this is all about, if you'd like. We're just waiting for it to load, and it's not loading, of course. Here we go.
They were flying out to Los Angeles International Airport with 11 crew and 52
Ah.
A very
Apparently it's
brief.
still loading.
snippet.
a very brief snippet. Anyway.
passengers on board. As they taxied to the runway, the crew performed a controls check to make sure that all their control surfaces were good to go. At 11
Okay, so there you go. There's a little snippet. Thank you for Arun for letting me play that. Hopefully that was what you wanted me to do. Yes. Go ahead and take a physiological break.
Thank you. Bye. Back
I
in a
can just
minute.
fix this in post. No problem.
That's fine. That's why I said no.
I saw that you said no. I usually at that point in the show say, "Does anybody need to take a break?" And I didn't this time, thinking that, well, I don't need to.
It really
so.
hasn't. We haven't been going that long. Well,
No.
maybe I should go. The dogs have been awfully quiet. Should I just
Oh,
assume
yeah.
that they're being well behaved and not causing mischief or eating?
It's up to you,
things they
Steph.
shouldn't be?
Whatever you want to do.
It'll be 2 seconds. I should probably
Okay.
check. Quiet. Although if I go down there and they're like napping and sleeping, and then they see me, then it's like,
Maybe you should just stay.
I think I'll just stay.
Stay.
I don't hear any commotion. I'm just going to assume all is well.
Yes. That's a good
And,
well,
and
it's an
it's a-
assumption.
It's an assumption. You know what happens with assumptions anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what I might do? Maybe back this thing up from the beginning. Although he doesn't have like a any kind of an intro or anything.
Oh,
but
it's just like
hang on.
Hey, this is the story of Delta Airlines Flight 1080. This is a story of bravery, skill, determination, and outstanding airmanship. Flight 1080 begins on the ground at San Diego International Airport.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just play that, and then I'll
and then we can.
take out the stuff where I said a very short little snippet.
I was using my Crew
Ooh,
electronics.
Very nice.
Pen.
I got another from my flight surgeon today. He gives out these nice, but it doesn't have a flashlight on it. It's
Oh well, then it's useless.
I wouldn't say that.
Doesn't have the
It's actually a very nice pen. It has like the what do you call
Stylus.
it? The stylus, and then and you go pop up, and then you have the
pop up. Oh, it comes.
Ballpoint?
The ballpoint comes through
Yeah.
the stylus. Fancy, fancy.
no. I should tell him, hey, really? Let me show you something. This is what you need to give out to your patients.
Yes.
Anyway,
Well, anyway, I'm glad that you're. I didn't get to say this earlier. I'm glad that you're feeling better. I was
yeah, me too.
really concerned there for.
I was a little concerned by the
Yeah.
little, the fingertip
Yeah,
thing.
that was not a good symptom.
And I was like literally at some points like shaking with, the chills. In the middle of the night, I had to get up and, it was like, I hadn't experienced that in quite some time in my life.
I've
thankfully.
never. Well, the shaking chills, yes, but the tingling in the fingertips,
Yeah.
definitely never.
Yeah. I didn't have any other symptoms of a heart attack or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't too concerned about that.
Well, it's still alive, so I shouldn't worry too much.
Yeah. Okay.
Guess you made the right call.
Well, I guess so. I'm still here. Still amongst the living, at least at this point. Now I'll probably suffer a huge heart attack or stroke while everybody's watching me live on YouTube. Hopefully it'll go viral.
Oh, jeez.
A viral
Although it's not
stroke.
it's not monetized though, so I want to.
I don't know if you. Is there such
Well,
a
we
thing
would,
as
we
a
would take care of
viral
that after
stroke?
the fact. Don't worry. We would
Yeah.
definitely profit on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I hope so. Okay. I was mentioning to Steph, I'm going to go ahead and start this segment again with the video snippet from the very beginning of his video. Makes more sense. So why don't we just start over completely? Item number 3 from Arun. Hey, Captain Jeff, you've inspired me to start my own aviation YouTube channel, and it's called Mini Air Crash Investigation, where I analyze an air crash or incident on each episode. Since you flew the L-1011, I'm sure you'd love this story about an L-1011 crew that landed a crippled L-1011. Let me know what you think. So he did send us a link to his YouTube channel, Mini Air Crash Investigation, and he has several videos already, and he only started a few months back. And let me play a little snippet of this one that he thinks I might be interested in.
Hey, this is the story of Delta Airlines Flight 1080. This is a story of bravery, skill, determination, and outstanding airmanship. Flight 1080 begins on the ground at San Diego International Airport on the 12th of April 1977. Today they were flying.
Anyway, that's a little snippet for you. And if you want to, this is a very good story, by the way. And yes, we knew all about it. Those of us who flew the L-1011, this is one of those things that they tell us about while we're in training. Now, back in 1977, April, I was getting that was like the last month of my high school. I graduated in May of 1977. So obviously I didn't hear about this, or I don't recall hearing anything about this when I was in high school, but several years back. But it is a great story, and thank you for telling it, Arun. And check out all the other great videos he has on his YouTube channel, Mini Air Crash Investigation. All right. Let's move on. Item 4 from Craig, who is also a producer, Coffee Fund Cadre member. Hi, crew. Any thoughts on how an airliner roughed up by a severe hailstorm could be repaired in the field? Or was it possibly just a matter of inspection and sign-off until it could be returned to a hub? Clear skies and tailwinds, Montana Craig. This is Craig Messerman from Missoula, and he gives us a link to this article. Storm damages commercial planes at Billings Airport, and this is from the Billings
I
Gazette.
was just there.
Oh, that's right.
That's the
Did you see
airport I
this
went
damaged airplane there while you were there?
No.
Okay.
It was a lovely, nice day, not a cloud in the sky.
Oh, okay. That airplane, that airport I've been into and out of many, many times. Sits up on kind of a top of a plateau.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little
very neat.
bluff area.
Yeah, or a bluff, I guess. Frontier and Alaska Airlines both had planes damaged by the hailstorm that battered much of the region on Sunday evening. Both planes were supposed to. Did you see I highlighted that? That's a journalist there that misspelled.
It's a small town.
Both planes were supposed, with a D, to depart Sunday night. Instead, they were roughed up enough by the hail and wind that crews were required to keep them grounded overnight while they repaired the damage, said Kevin Plone, Billings Airport Administrator. The Alaska Airlines plane was repaired early enough on Monday that it was able to depart by the afternoon. Crews were hoping to repair the Frontier aircraft in time to get it back in the air by Monday night. The storm moved through the area at about 7 p.m. on Sunday and left a wide swath of damage. Fallen trees and branches knocked out power to about 1,500 residents, and emergency crews responded to a car wreck in the Heights and reports of people trapped in an elevator. Anyway, it goes on and tells a little bit more about the damage that this storm caused. But the thing that we're concerned about here, or what Craig is concerned about, and pilots should be concerned about this as well, the hail damage. What do you do when your jet is damaged by hail, and is it really possible to repair it? And I would say yes. They go out and do a full inspection, and any areas that have been significantly damaged. Now, you might see some little dents here and there that may not be something that a mechanic would consider significant as far as affecting airworthiness, but there are and I don't know what the parameters are as far as how big of a indentation is required, or where, like if it's on this part of the wing, it's okay. If it's on the leading edge of the wing, probably not. I don't know all the details about that. Maybe a air maintenance technician listening to the show might have more detail about that, or maybe one of the fellow hosts here might know something about that sort of thing. But yes, they're not just paying lip service to repairing these things. They really do require a full inspection, and if repair is necessary, they have to do it, I believe, unless they get some kind of a special permit, like a ferry permit or something, to fly the airplane back to a maintenance base. But
Yeah, I'm
that's all I
pretty
know.
sure they will have very specific size, diameter of the indentation and depth, position in their requirements, and they will measure those very carefully. They'll mark them, locate them on the configuration deviation list, so that they can be inspected on further flights, and each one will be individually measured and checked. And what they often do is they get 7 little guys with hammers who come out, and they fix the airplane, and they're singing hi ho, hi ho, and they're always very happy to go to work, and they get on the inside there and they tap out all the little dents, and then they're fixed, and off you go.
I had
Wow.
no idea that it was the
Is that
Seven
right?
Dwarfs fixing
Oh,
hail
okay.
damage.
How long were you waiting for that? That was awesome.
Well, Snow White is the licensed engineer, so she knows all about that stuff. We ought to ask her.
Yes.
7 guys and hammers.
I
I'm
feel like
thinking,
we need
what?
to. There's going to be a rewrite of that children's story now.
That is very specific.
The mine dried out. What are they going to do?
Yeah. No, it just got me thinking, though. I wonder how often stuff like this really happens, especially some of these airports, either like Billings or even Denver. Storms with significant hail happen quite often in that part of the country, and that's a pretty busy airport with lots of aircraft. And yeah, it's a good question, Craig, about how long it takes to fix that kind of damage and get those aircraft turned back around so they can continue to operate flights.
Well,
Apparently-
if it was my car, I'd want to get it fixed by my dealer pretty quickly. But of course, an airplane's made of much tougher stuff. It's aluminium instead of steel. So yeah.
And the aerodynamics on your car are not quite as important as the aerodynamics on an airplane.
That's
Unless you
very
drive
true.
like Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, true. He needs all the downforce he can get on his car.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, this reminds me of an incident that occurred several years back at Acme Airlines, where the FAA was trying to pull a captain's certificate because he was out at a place, I don't know, let's say Oklahoma City. I'm not sure if that was it or not, but somewhere in the Midwest, they had a significant storm run through the night before. There was some hail, and he did a pre-flight inspection of the airplane and was satisfied that there wasn't any hail damage. However, he didn't look at the top of the tail, the airplane that we fly. It was I think it was a 727 in this case, a T-tail, which would require a cherry picker or some kind of a vehicle that has like a crane kind of thing that gets you high enough up so you can actually inspect the top surfaces of a T-tailed airplane. And he wasn't able to do that, or didn't arrange for it or whatever. And when he got back to Atlanta, apparently the FAA got involved and basically said that he flew or potentially flew an unairworthy or potentially unairworthy airplane. And everybody was just like, what? I mean, really? I mean, how was he supposed to know, so.
Yeah, and
that's-
how are you supposed to? I mean, here's a hypothetical question, but say you're at a small airport that doesn't have equipment like that. You have
Right.
no way to assess it. You've looked at everything else and it looks okay. Well, you go, well, no, I'm not going to do it until the company or the airport or someone gets the appropriate equipment out here.
That seems reasonable to me. To if you're inspecting everything else that you can actually see
And
and you
everything
don't see
else
any
looks okay.
damage,
Yeah.
then I think it would be reasonable to assume that that surface would not be damaged as well. And that's what we were all thinking at the time, thinking, well, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Apparently, the union lawyers got involved, and the company actually defended the captain in this case. And but anyway, it's one of those things that really, makes me think every time I go out to an airplane and I know or I hear that there was some kind of a big storm the night before. And the thing that I'm also very sensitive about is the damage to the control tabs on the elevators of the Mad Dog, because we've talked about in the last couple of years a couple of incidents involving the control tabs and damages to the control rods that control the control tabs on the elevator, and how there in a couple different cases where either the airplane wasn't rotating for takeoff, and in another case the airplane was rotating before the crew called for it, and both involved damaged control tabs for the elevator system. So when somebody tells me that there was a lot of wind the night before, or I know that there has been a lot of wind the night before, for instance, just a few months back, I think my first officer probably thought I was crazy, but we were in Wichita, and it was a very, very high wind kind of event, storms that went through, and thinking that in the back of my mind, I was thinking of these incidents where there was some damage. That one in Willow Grove, Michigan, near Ann Arbor, with the Michigan basketball team and pep band and other people affiliated with it, were heading from Ann Arbor or Willow Grove Airport to I think it was Washington D.C., where they were doing like what do they call that, the Final Four kind of thing, whatever, March Madness kind of thing.
Oh,
Willow Run. Okay, thank you, Liz. And the airplane had been there for a few days, and there was some really super high winds up in that area during that time. And apparently, the wind and the way the airplane was parked up against between two buildings or something like that, and the wind flow around the buildings just kind of enhanced the amount of velocity of the wind, and it did the thing was, as we know, or most people know from listening to the show, the Mad Dog, not the MD-90, but the MD-80 through 88 has an unpowered elevator, and so it just kind of flops around and in the wind, and it can, like, the left one might be up and the right one might be down, and it's kind of crazy. Anyway, there's nothing keeping it from moving, and apparently this had been exposed to quite a lot of wind and was banging up and down, and apparently I forget which side, it was the right or left, but one of the control arms for that control tab, which is what actually controls the movement of the elevator, had been damaged, and they were rolling down the runway, and they pulled the yoke back for rotation, and nothing happened. And that was one of those situations where the airplane was not going to fly, and they were well past V1 when they realized that there's no way the airplane was going to fly, so they had to abort the takeoff, and miraculously nobody was killed in it. I'm not even sure anybody was seriously injured, but it could have been a huge tragedy had that airplane actually gotten off the ground, or if they made the decision to stop even later. But
such a difficult decision, that. I mean, we talk about pilots having to make the decision at V1 losing an engine, but have to make a decision after V1. Requires real courage.
Yeah, and in this case, it was like there was nothing else I could do, really.
Right. But you think about, I'm just thinking like the startle factor there, where you expect, you have no reason otherwise to suspect that airplane's not going to fly.
Right.
Except that it doesn't respond to the control inputs you're giving it.
So we do control checks and all that kind of stuff, and there's nothing that we have that shows, because there's like a little tab, there's the only thing that's moving connected to our controls, and there's no kind of electronic display that shows the movement of these tabs. And there's nobody outside looking to see if the tab is actually moving in response to the control input. So what I did, because I knew that the night before there was a lot of wind, and these stories are still in the back of my head, thinking that that's what's going to kill me, is that stupid control tab on the elevator of this Mad Dog. And so when I did the walk around, I ended up calling on the cell phone of the first officer, and I said, no, this is crazy, but I explained to him what I was going to do before I left the cockpit. And so he pulled the yoke back, and then I could see the tab was moving in the proper direction, and he pushed it forward, and it was, both of the tabs were moving in the proper direction. And that was, that satisfied my concern regarding whether or not that there had been any damage to the control tab of the elevator in this case. But
I mean, I think that's a really wise thing to do, though. Why wouldn't you? If you have the ability to do that and check it before you go,
right.
if there was any concern at all.
Yeah. So, I know I probably looked foolish doing it, but I'm still
I'd rather
glad
look
that I did.
foolish than
Yeah.
to think about doing something and not do it and then have that be the problem. That's a
Right.
lot more foolish.
And it's like nothing in our books say anything about doing that sort of an inspection. But
That's where you
again,
have to use your pilot brain.
right.
Instincts.
We do these shows and we see an awful lot of accident and incident reports, and you can't help but start thinking about these kind of things. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out. So, do we thoroughly answer Craig's question regarding the
I think so.
hail
It's a
damage?
nice little tornado going on in that picture from
Yeah,
the
I saw that.
terminal at Billings.
Is that actually from the storm? Wow.
From
Or is that from another storm?
of a severe storm.
Yeah.
Not sure which one.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty severe, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Speaking of severe storms, hopefully my power stays on. There's a impressive amount of lightning on the radar heading my way.
Okay.
We
Hopefully
shall see.
you'll keep your electricity.
Yeah.
Oops.
But if I disappear all of a sudden, that's probably what happened.
Okay. Well, hang in there, Steph.
I mean, I'll be here.
Okay. Yeah, we won't be able to see you.
Yeah, it'll just be.
Yeah.
It sounds like you'll be finishing the show all on your own.
No. I have great faith that the power will stay on.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting internal communications that says that Nick wants us to do the plaintail right now, or
Well, it's coming up to 11 o'clock at night here, and
Okay.
I have a very early and busy day tomorrow, so it'll be perhaps
I think that'd be a
nice
great
to
idea.
knock it on the head, and I'll say, when we finished it, I'll say my goodbyes.
Okay, very good. I had not even thought about that. Thank you very much. How what's the word I'm looking for? Not rude, but
Insensitive.
insensitive of me not to think about the fact that you're up really, really late.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
No problem at all. Normally, I don't have a hassle. I can stay up till 1
Yeah.
or 2 in the morning, but perhaps not tomorrow. It's
No.
an
Okay.
important day.
Very good, very good. So here you go. We're going to play this week's episode or installment of the Old Pilot's Plain Tales. Here we go.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. All-weather heather.
It's 20 years in the past, and Loki Chokio is a dusty, fly-blown Kenyan frontier town that is a long way from the tourist images of African safari lodges. The emaciated cattle of the Turkana wander the dirt streets, and the place stinks of foul garbage and excrement. The flies are thick, and it's as dangerous here as it is dirty. Drought has decimated the cattle herds, so the desperate Turkana have mainly become bandits, robbing anyone careless enough to risk travelling at night. Only a few days before, a driver was shot dead and his passengers robbed. They are also at war with the neighbouring tribe, Toposa, and nightly gun battles can be heard in the distance. There's an airstrip here with a few buildings, offices and compounds, one with a pool and a bar. At 6 o'clock sharp, an attractive blonde can be found there, sipping a G&T while the ice tinkles in her glass. At first glance, she looks out of place, but her easy manner and familiarity marks her as a local. She's well-spoken with the classic British accent of the well-to-do. Her manner is direct, and her style betrays a good upbringing. She's a product of the British Empire, self-sufficient and capable. Born in England but brought up in Nigeria, her father was a mine manager. At 18, she married an army officer and had 2 children by him, But at 21, she left him and married an older chap who owned his own aircraft. She was keen to learn to fly it, but her new husband said that she would be an awful pilot. She was terrible at maths. Eventually, she persuaded him to let her try, and despite having 2 more children, by the age of 25, she had indeed gained her pilot's license, falling in love with her instructor along the way and having another child by him. A girlfriend described her as stunningly beautiful, with natural grace, a very open and honest character who wouldn't try and hide anything, even her lovers. She took her commercial exams and flight test in England, flying out of Gatwick Airport and landing sandwiched between Boeing 707s. She needed money to keep her children in boarding school, so she started bush flying, something she loved, initially for flying doctors and the police air wing, building up experience and learning to find the half-hidden airstrips that were her destinations. Her flying career started in earnest with Air Kenya flying freight. This was followed by a job for Kenya Air Charters, taking wealthy white hunters out into the Sudan bush in a Beechcraft Baron 55. Good years, she says, staying in hunting camps for a week or more and floating down the Nile on river barges, searching for lion, antelope and elephant. Landing on poorly prepared strips that were difficult to find, particularly just using a simple map, she learned her trade flying the bush the hard way. A careful pilot, meticulous about looking after her aircraft, she knew that flying in some of the most remote parts of Africa killed many slapdash aviators who took risks. There was enough excitement to be found without the additional thrill of risking an engine failure through poor maintenance. She continued to progress, gaining her instrument rating in 1970 and qualifying on the Islander, Comanche, Aztec, Seneca, and Cessna 402, to name a few. Despite her measured approach to flying, she gained a solid reputation for being able to work in the worst of conditions and earned a nickname that would stick with her for life, All-Weather Heather. Heather Stewart's meticulous attitude didn't always prevent the unexpected. She experienced the usual problems that Africa would throw her way: flat tires, flat batteries, broken radios, and villagers who siphoned off the aviation fuel left at airstrips. These were the kind of problems that all bush pilots suffered from, but Heather soon gained a reputation for toughness, reliability, and safety that got her work flying the rich and famous, film stars and the like. She even met the Pope. If you want to get a feel for what kind of girl she was, try reading about the pioneer aviator Beryl Markham, who captivated Hemingway and wrote the book West with the Night. She was even involved with Joy and George Adamson, who gained fame for their efforts to introduce lions back into the wild, documented in the famous book, film, and foundation, Born Free. Heather is mentioned in the follow-up book, Christian the Lion. Flying into Kora, the book reads, is always exhilarating. The camp is located in a very remote area of Kenya, and for the last hour of the flight there are none of the cultivated patches or gleaming tin roofs that usually betray human habitation. Terence had planned to extend the landing strip after some pilots had expressed their concerns about its length, but this didn't worry our pilot, Heather Stewart, who was an excellent pilot. It wasn't long before we had touched down safely. She did a stint flying the Lawrence of Arabia film director, David Lean, around and took to delivering cat into Somalia. The mild narcotic is legal there, and since alcohol isn't available to the Muslim population, it's their drug of choice. I never had enough fuel for a round trip, she said, and I had to get out onto the wing with jerry cans to refuel. Well, a gun battle between warlords broke out, and there were bullets whizzing around. I finished up and got into the cockpit, but my plane had 6 bullet holes in it, and one passed right through close to the back of my head. Missed me by that much, she said, spreading her thumb and forefinger. That made me think. So when someone said, go fly in the Sudan, they really need people there, I went. With her short blonde hair, good looks, and brilliant smile, Heather could easily have been mistaken for the hostess of an English garden party, but she was never afraid of getting her hands dirty. The UN needed a base for their operations into the Sudan, Operation Lifeline. More than 2 million had died there, if not by bullets and bombs, then from the famine and disease brought about by war, drought, and flood. The United Nations classified the region as a state in chronic emergency and was trying to fly in supplies. Heather saw an opportunity to help, and with another pilot, an American called Jim Gaunt, she set about building an airstrip at Lokichoki, and she started a charter company called Trackmark Aviation. Thus began a turning point in Heather's life, from the glamour and flying of the rich and famous to the down-to-earth work of transporting aid into desperate regions of Africa. Sudan is the biggest country on the continent, but for years it had suffered from intractable civil wars. The pilots who operated there worked in conditions that would give the average airline pilot palpitations and panic attacks. No control towers, weather forecast, navigation beacons, radar, or the like. These aviators didn't have adventures, they lived them on a daily basis. On one trip, Heather was flying 3 C-130 Hercules pilots to look at possible airstrips to operate their aircraft from. They got to a town called Akabo that hadn't had an aircraft land there for years. An overflight showed the strip as dry and clear, but underneath the crust of dry earth lay a soft black and soggy foundation. Heather tells of putting the Cessna 402 down, but it sank through the crust and got completely stuck. They couldn't take off and nobody could land there to rescue them. They ate a few biscuits, all they had, and purified river water, whilst Heather radioed for a food and water drop, but it was 3 days before anyone could get to them. The airfield had been the scene of a recent battle. The Sudan People's Liberation Army rebels had driven off the government forces. There were thousands of mosquitoes, the heat was terrible, and there was always the fear that the army would come back and attack. There were many dead bodies lying about, she said, and you could imagine what it was like. One of the passengers was a survival expert, but then he got bitten by a scorpion and was in a great deal of pain. The plane with the food and water dropped morphine as well, and we shot him up with so much of it that he got stoned. Finally, one of the Catholic missions was able to get a helicopter to them. Heather stripped the radio from the Cessna and they got out. It was quite good, she said, to change my clothes and have a bath. Trackmarks had a small beginning, just me and my airplane, she said, but the Islamic government in Khartoum who seized power declared the war in the south to be a jihad. In the following years, it would deny aid to southern Sudan and drop cluster bombs on churches, missions, and defenseless villages, massacring thousands and driving thousands more from their homes into concentration camps or the bush. It even revived the ancient practice of raiding towns on horseback, killing the elderly and men of fighting age, then rounding up the young women and children to sell them into slavery. The work of the UN began to grow, and dozens of non-governmental organizations were bringing in tons of aid that needed to be flown into the Sudan. The amount they shifted exceeded the total flown during the Berlin airlift. Heather began taking on other pilots, and at one time her company employed 22. She invested in Lokichoki by building a safe enclave with a bar and even a pool. As a side note, it's still there, should you ever want to explore the real side of Africa, and they'll rent you a room. The flying was still dangerous. The government insisted on advance warning of aid flights, and it sometimes dispatched militia units to seize them. The SPLA rebels controlled vast areas of the south, so the government frequently denied permission to fly in an attempt to starve the rebels into submission. In response to the dire need for aid, the bush pilots delivered their cargoes to the no-fly zones in defiance of Khartoum's threats that their planes would be shot out of the sky. They called it flying on the dark side and filed false plans or no plans at all. The risks were high. Heather did a lot of flying for the Catholic missionaries in Sudan's western province. Taking off before dawn, she would land in the early light and then throw camouflage netting over her aircraft to keep it hidden until it was safe to depart at night. These airstrips had no lighting, so she would line up for takeoff and aim at a single torch held up by someone standing at the other end of the strip. A friend recalled another harrowing flight. We were on her caravan aircraft ready to leave and find a group of slaves we were attempting to reach in another region when a number of men came up to the plane carrying a youth who had been shot a number of times during a raid. He was barely conscious and had lost copious amounts of blood, and with no medical assistance available, only had a few hours to live. I'll fly him to Loki, as it was affectionately named, and the Red Cross hospital there, Heather said. At the time, Loki had the largest field hospital in the world there. But I need someone to come with me while I fly the plane. Jane and I volunteered for the task, and in the end it was decided that the young man's mother should come with us. Words will never describe what we endured on that flight. Blood continued to run down the floor of the aircraft as we sought to administer morphine and check his vital signs. We felt so helpless. At one point he opened his eyes and his mother wept at the sight. He had a huge wound under his arm and the blood was escaping rapidly. "There's duct tape in the rear compartment," Heather yelled from the front, and we wrapped the wound in it, watching as the bleeding somehow stopped. 5 hours later we arrived in Loki, where the boy and his mother were whisked off to the hospital from the airstrip. A year later we happened upon him, and he had recovered, though with the loss of the use of his arm. Heather invited us to the hospitality camp she ran there, just off the single airstrip, treating us to a sumptuous dinner and her best room. Even there, exhausted from the flight, she constantly looked out for others. Heather Stewart spent years flying people like us into some of the riskiest situations, and on many of those occasions chose to park her plane with us for the night in case something serious were to occur. She slept on the ground with us, endured the heat, the food, the massive scope of human suffering, and the shared grief at the senseless death of hundreds of thousands. She helped us fight slavery, assisted others flying in emergency supplies and workers, and constantly used her Loki camp to assuage the pains, heal the wounds, and recover the spirits. Heather tried to stay neutral in her opinions about the conflict to avoid getting caught up in the causes, but she admits to flying medevacs for wounded guerrillas when called upon. "I always carry a jar of Vicks, it's a smelly chest rub, with me," she said, "and I put a little in each nostril. The stench of gangrene can be overwhelming in a small plane. It's dangerous flying, it's quite a buzz really. I'd much rather do that than fly a bunch of fat tourists to look at lions." The one thing she wouldn't do, though, was deliver weapons. possibly as a result of her decision. As the work dried up, so did the money, and her company shrank back down, but Heather kept flying. To honor her efforts, the missionaries brought her to Rome for a private audience with Pope John Paul. This Protestant woman of dubious morals and multiple marriages knelt and kissed the pontiff's ring. To cover her bases, she laughingly admitted, she later flew the Archbishop of Canterbury on a tour of South Sudan. Heather died peacefully of leukemia in her home in Kenya nearly a year ago, aged 78. She left many full of admiration for her, and the world is a sadder place without her in it.
Another great plain tale. Thank you, Captain Nick.
Well, thank you to Josine Lafontaine for the great suggestion, because I had never heard of All-Weather Heather. And, as I dug into her story, and it wasn't the easiest story to research this one. I ended up having to buy a book because there was a single chapter in there which had an account of her. And I thought, well, it's worth spending the money just to get that little piece that will give me more detail of her life. But she sounds like an unlikely character to do that sort of thing, but ideally suited to it, because I suspect that with her flying skills, which were and her common sense and her drive and her fearless approach to life in Kenya, and more importantly in the Sudan and Somalia during that awful conflict, she did an awful lot of good. And regardless of what sex she was a fantastic bush pilot and much admired. So when I found out about her life, I really, took an interest and felt I had to tell that story, because I think she was one remarkable lady.
An amazing pilot, as you say, regardless of gender, an amazing pilot, great story. And I do have a question, though. Did they change the formulation of Vicks? Because I don't think that Vicks is a horrible smell.
Well,
No, I don't either.
It's a strong odor.
It's very strong, yes. Mentholatum or
Yes.
something.
Yeah, it's a menthol kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's an unpleasant smell, but it's
strong.
I guess it's all she had to try and hide the stench of some
Yeah.
of the things she had to carry in her aircraft.
Cannot imagine what gangrene must smell like. Must be horrible.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Have you-
I guess.
Have you had the opportunity?
The pleasure, yes.
Oh,
The
okay.
displeasure.
Is that from medical school? You kind of get exposed to
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Is it a smell you'd ever forget?
No.
No.
There's several infamous smells in the medical field that once you've smelled, you will not forget ever.
Yeah.
Pleasant. Yes.
Well, sorry to end it on that note.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me of all of that.
No. I just
was a great story.
admired this woman. I thanks very much for Josine, who we love anyway, because she sends in great feedback and a great support of the show. And actually, for a rare occasion, she's not in the chat room tonight, so
What?
she's not watching
Oh.
live, which is a
Speed.
shame.
Yeah. Too
But
bad.
I hope she gets to hear this and realize what a great story it was. She, revealed to me so that I could tell it. I'm delighted to be able to do that.
Exactly.
I'm sure she will listen and she will thank you in due course for sure.
Yes. Thanks, Josie. Okay. Well, Nick, I am going to direct you now to leave us because we've had it with you.
Be gone. Go.
My pleasure
Shoo.
to take an early bath, as they say, when you leave the field of play before your allotted time. Go for an early bath because I've got an important day tomorrow playing my finals at the Bowls Club. So I need to get some sleep, and it's going to be
It's late.
fast approaching midnight by the time I actually get my head on the pillow. So
All right.
yeah, I'm going to wish you guys well, and you had the lovely Dr. Steph to give her expert advice on the remaining feedback, and I'm sure she is quite capable of filling my place.
More than capable.
More than capable. Exactly right. Yeah.
I'll do what I can.
We're in good hands.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, have a lovely show,
All
guys.
right. Good luck
and,
tomorrow,
Kat-
Nick.
Thanks,
Yes.
Nick.
Thanks
Yeah.
very much.
Good luck
Catch
on
you
your
later.
on
See
your
ya.
matches.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, and then there were two.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So-
everyone. You're stuck with us.
Yeah. You know,
It's
I could think of worse things.
Yeah, I could too.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's go back to where we left off. I think
Number
Craig's.
5.
Yeah, number 5 would be the next one. You're right. Greetings, APG crew and the world's okayest Airbus guy. Ah, too bad we didn't do that.
We
right
should have
before
read
he
that
left.
just before Nick. Yeah. Nick left.
Anyway, it's your favorite millennial, Tom from Pittsburgh, reporting from the opposite side of the fire hose of Part 121 training. I'm happy to say I'm officially through my first type rating. Type rating. Off IOE and a full-fledged first officer on the Jungle Jet. Yay! And if I can only find my applause.
Yeah, because mine's
Just imagine it right now.
smattering.
It's coming in. It's just
Yay.
awesome. Here we go.
Yay.
See, I told you. There we go. Congratulations on that. He says, although I'm sorry to say I haven't been able to catch up with the show lately as I've been busy trying to keep up with the jet. I'm starting to catch up with every layover and long sit I have. You know what? I think we can give him a break since
You're
it was kind of
excused.
important for him to
I mean, now we
concentrate.
expect you to be back and to catch up, but
Right.
I mean, that time off, that's fine.
Yeah. We'll let it
We
go.
will allow it.
We'll let it go this time. Okay. Let's see. I've been traveling a lot, even to Atlanta, and one of these days I'd love to have a meetup with y'all. Also, I'd like to say congrats to Captain Nick on his retirement. Such a long, fruitful career finally comes to an end, and enjoy your retirement. I know it's a little late, but I'm playing catch up here. Again, I turn to you guys for some advice for anyone just getting off low time at their first airline. If you could go back to your low time selves at your first airline, what would you tell them? I look forward to hearing from you guys again and hopefully having a meetup. Well, sadly, I'm the only airline pilot here that can really answer that question, Tom. Perhaps maybe you can remind me, Steph, on the next show when Dana and Nick are back,
Sure.
if we think about it.
If Liz would be kind enough to maybe leave
Yeah,
it
we
in
can-
the
We can keep that in the
queue.
current. I can do that. Okay, so let's see if I could go back to my initial self at the first airline. This is the Acme Airlines, by the way, is my first airline and only airline. I'm one of the lucky ones. So I got hired out of the Air Force and right on into a major legacy carrier, which I'm very fortunate to have had that experience. And I think that the only thing that I could advise or recommend is to try to keep track of everything that's happening to you. You know, I never kept a diary and didn't even keep a logbook, actually. A logbook would probably be a good first step. And not necessarily to kind of record all the exact details about the exact takeoff time and like a typical logbook, but more that block of the logbook where you put like notes,
Remarks, impressions, things like
yeah.
that.
And no, maybe a logbook is not necessary. Maybe like keep some kind of a ledger or journal or whatever you call it, where you could, or even something on your computer, you know, to keep track of, to write down, you know, something about not every single leg, of course, because, you know, sometimes you'd be hard pressed to think of anything that was worth writing about on every single leg. But, you know, on each trip, there's always something odd or unusual that happens, or maybe something that at the time doesn't really seem important or significant in your life, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, it might be kind of fun to read something that you wrote that long ago and bring up, some memories from that time. So just something to consider, I'd say. Just because when you're at your age right now and you're starting off, you don't realize the significance of a lot of the things that are happening to you right now. And you will understand it once you're older. That's the only advice that I think that I can give.
Yeah. There's kind of a famous, this has nothing, probably generalizable to many professions, but there's a, or maybe not, I don't know, a famous line from a book called The House of God, which is kind of a interesting read. I'd say even required read for anyone going into medicine before they start their intern year. And one of the rules is first check your own pulse. So before you get excited, worked up about something, check your own pulse. And then it's kind of like the wind the clock thing and the,
okay.
For
I was
flying.
not sure I quite understood what that meant, what the significance of check your own pulse
Yeah.
is. But,
So just
okay.
before you start getting caught up in the, oh my gosh, I need to do this, if you're presented with a situation that seems a little overwhelming, just take that moment to take a step back for half a second. Remember you have time most of the time. Think through it logically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important, I think.
That is important.
So I'll just add that much.
Okay. And our producer in the background there has already taken care of making an effort to revisit this on a future show. So that's good. Hopefully that gave you some advice, Tom, and hopefully you'll receive more. And congratulations again for your progress. Item 6 from Moshe in Israel, Moshe. In case you haven't yet seen it, attached is the terrific field guide to NOTAMs, produced by the Ops Group, creators of death2notams.com. I expect this guide will be especially useful for Captain Nick, who, in his retirement, has plenty of spare time to seek out and photograph NOTAMs that are in danger of extinction. And again, this is from Moshe Greenberg in Israel. And I have the PDF of it in our show notes. Steph, I don't know if you had a chance to look through it, but whoever came up with this field guide to NOTAMs has a very, very good sense of humor. It's a really funny
I did
read.
Look through. I have seen this. I've read through a little bit of it, not all of it. But.
Well, I'll just read a little bit of the foreword. For the last 100 years, the NOTAM has existed without fear of predator, unchanged and unchallenged. It has lived freely in our aviation ecosystem, blissfully unaffected by technological development that has long seen the demise of other primitive species such as Morse code, the telegram, and Loran-C navigation. NOTAMs, too, will disappear, so take advantage of their abundance while you can. With this field guide, you can embark upon your own adventure, finding the multitude of varieties that still exist. So that's just a little taste. The next page talks about, for another little snippet here, the crane NOTAM. Mm-hmm. Notamus constructus, a nice Latin version of the crane NOTAM. Very common in Europe and North America, the crane NOTAM is part of the larger Irrelevantus family. Irrelevantus. Most airports are near cities. Most cities and airports have construction, so there are a lot of cranes. These are at most a few hundred feet high and usually very far from the runway. Nonetheless, any crane within Ubering distance of an airport is added to the NOTAM system. And then it has an example. This one from Lima, India, Mike, Echo, Milan. Obstacle, crane, erected with FLW characteristics. Following characteristics, yes. PSN WGS-84 454-232.90 north, 0093904.75 east, elevation AGL 98.4 feet, 30 meters. And then it goes on with some other
I like the they've given some helpful diagrams or not diagrams, pictures of different types of cranes.
Oh, yes,
so that
different
you can
cranes.
identify. I like that they've included the whooping crane,
Yes.
which is actually a bird.
Common cranes, tower crane, truck crane, terrain
Dragline.
crane, whooping crane. Sure. And then it has a little section for your own notes. And then it has some nice quotes from various people. This one, an American Airlines pilot, or an American pilot, I'm sorry. I'm not going to read it because it does have some foul language in it.
I like the quote from Donald Trump, though.
Let me see.
It's a little
Which
further down. It says,
section is that?
Make NOTAMs great again.
Yes.
Donald Trump, Captain, Air Force One.
Well, we've talked about NOTAMs in the past on our show, many times actually, and how so much of what is there is completely irrelevant. And even the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board Chairman Robert Sumalt himself, during the, I guess they were discussing the final report of the Air Canada near crash at San Francisco. And one of the things they were discussing was NOTAMs. And again, here's his quote.
That's what NOTAMs are. They're just a bunch of garbage that nobody pays any attention to.
So, yeah, we have that. So really, you do need to check out the show notes here to download the field guide to NOTAMs from the Death to NOTAMs group people. Very, very funny. Thank you, Moshe, for giving us that link and reminding us of this great piece of literature.
No, it's very funny, and it definitely drives home the point of how ridiculous a lot of NOTAMs are.
Yep, it really does. It's a great read. Item 7 from producer Steve. An interesting development in the investigation of this light aircraft crash.
Yeah, we covered this one fairly extensively earlier in the year, correct?
Yes. The soccer or the footballer Emiliano Sala was the passenger, the single sole passenger aboard a small commercial flight, single pilot. And he says an interesting development you might want to mention. Clearly, we don't yet know the root cause of the crash, but the high CO2 in the passenger is clearly a big red flag. I know we've done the CO2 debate to death, but or before, so probably not one to dwell on, but it does serve as a reminder of the potential dangers of CO2 poisoning in general aviation. And again, this is Steve Hurst, and he gave us a link to this article. And as Steve said, they found that the footballer Emiliano Sala was exposed to high levels of carbon monoxide prior to a fatal plane crash in the English Channel, a report has revealed. He was 28, and the pilot David Ibbotson, 59, crashed on the 21st of January while traveling from Nantes in France to Cardiff. I'm not sure. Is that the way you pronounce Nantes? Sure. Nailed it? Yeah.
I've lost it in the other.
Oh, okay.
N-A-T, no, that's not how you
N-A-N-T-E?
pronounce it.
Oh.
But I'm not going to say it right either, so.
Okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Sure. Toxology tests on Salah's body showed CO levels in his blood were so great it could have caused a seizure, unconsciousness, or a heart attack. So, Steph, so you're the doctor here. To me, not a doctor, it looks like a 58% level of carbon monoxide. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's what... oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He did have a level of 58%. That seems really high to me.
It is really high. Yeah, that's not normal.
I mean, I don't know what a normal amount would be. I would think it would be like single digits at most, maybe even a fraction of a digit.
Very close to zero.
Yeah. Wow. So they still haven't found the body of the pilot, Ibbotson.
Interesting.
But they do know where the wreckage of the airplane is. And I think they're still trying to get funding to bring the thing up.
To the surface.
Yeah. Nantes?
Yeah, I mean,
Liz says.
Nantes. Yeah, it's
Nantes.
Nantes.
Wrong.
I can't.
No.
I can't make that sound correctly. I know how it's supposed to sound, but I can't do it correctly. So
Okay. Thank you, Liz.
long.
So what do you think, Steph? You think that this is...
I mean, I think we probably don't know for. Was this part of their final report, or this was? Just
I don't think
part,
so.
This was just a intermediate. Hey, we found this.
Mhm.
Yeah, certainly. This was a Piper Malibu, I believe.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
piston engine. So certainly could produce carbon monoxide if you had faulty heating or ventilation or something along those lines. Yeah, and if you're exposed to high levels of carbon monoxide like that, that certainly can result in a situation where you're not able to think clearly, unconscious, and would not be able to continue to safely pilot an aircraft, and it could result in a crash. That's one possibility of what may have happened here. I'm not sure how else you end up with such high levels of carbon monoxide in your system if that was not a significant contributing cause or factor. But we'll see. It sounds like we might get some more information again in the future.
Yes. Yeah, I had not read the update on this, Steve, so thank you for making us aware of it. And hopefully they'll get whatever is necessary to retrieve the wreckage of the airplane so they can inspect it more closely to see if that is perhaps one of the causes of this tragedy. I don't know. We'll see.
Did you say CO2 level at some point?
I did.
Okay, so sorry,
CO,
just carbon
but-
monoxide. Yeah.
Okay, carbon monoxide is CO,
Yeah.
but I could have sworn I was reading something that said
You may have been. I was
CO2.
looking back. I just wanted to make sure we.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just easy to read
Oh,
off. what you
well,
expect to see.
Steve said CO2.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh, yeah.
In the
He did.
article
Sorry.
itself, I think it's just CO.
Yeah.
You're right.
And sorry, I was not even paying attention to that because I was forwarding down into the article to look through it. So.
Yeah, you're right. It's carbon monoxide, not dioxide.
Correct.
So CO. Steve, you didn't do well in chemistry, did you?
We're just getting Steve back up to 50% here.
Yeah. Come on, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
You're better than that.
It's all good.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
We knew what you meant. Everyone knew what you meant. It's all good.
See, I didn't notice. She was the one.
No,
Am I
it was
pointing
someone
the
in the
right
chat
direction?
room. Because
Oh.
honestly, you were reading through that, and I was actually looking down in the article, and I wasn't paying attention
Yeah.
to you. I'm sorry.
I wasn't paying close attention to what I was saying either, which is normal.
We're all
That's why-
doing really well
That's why
tonight.
Steph is
Doing
here
really-
to pay attention to one, or Liz actually. She's
Liz
the one
is paying
that.
attention. Yeah. Chat room
goes,
paying attention.
"What are
They
you
keep us
talking
honest
about,
here."
Jeff?
Yeah. Like carbon dioxide. Like,
It gets very distracting sometimes when I'm trying to read things and I see all these messages going on. I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to look.
well, just as usual, I've done a lot of preparation for this show. So, and by that I mean I've done zero preparation.
Yeah, we know. We understand your sarcasm.
So as Jeff's like starting to read the whatever the commentary is from whoever sent in the item of interest, I'm actually reading the item of interest
for the first time.
So I've
Yeah, that's
divided
okay.
attention.
Hey, we take whatever we can get here.
I try.
You're a fast read. Okay, let's move on to item number 8. Robbie. My name's Robbie. I'm an aviation enthusiast interested in getting involved in aviation. I'm interested in taking flying lessons of some variety when I have time, but I'm leaving my home in Westchester, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia, for Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, and I don't expect to have a lot of time for anything other than studying and drinking beer. Speaking of which, I plan to study aerospace engineering since there are so many interesting tracks that pertain to it. None of this is particularly important to the podcast, so I'll get to the important stuff. First, I'm not asking any questions today as I only discovered your podcast a month ago, and I've only gotten through episode 58. I chuckle every time I hear someone saying that they're working to catch up because they have a lot less to work through than I do. And I'm not going to bother answering your questions about show length, favorite weather app, etc. The only purpose that will serve to you and your listeners is a trip down memory lane for anyone who has listened to the early episodes. The two real topics that I have been building up to, with the deliberateness of a cow meandering its way about, do relate somewhat to both the past episodes and the present. First, I'd forgotten that the Boeing 787 had been grounded for a while, not long after its debut. Yeah, they had all those battery problems. Of course, the 737 MAX aircraft groundings are not directly comparable, but it makes me feel better overall about the eventual return of the 737 MAX aircraft to everyday use. The other topic I wanted to bring up was the following article I saw this morning, which can be found at the link, and then it gives us the link. Let's see, and the title, the headline of this link is Flight Attendant 43 who contracted measles on flight dies after battling the disease for 5 months. So going back to Robbie's feedback here, just yesterday, I was listening to episode 58 and you were rambling on and on and on. No, just kidding. You spent an appropriate amount of time on the topic. Anyway, you were talking about 2 British Airways crew members who have both died at 43 and posthumously accused, did I say that right? Posthumously?
Posthumously.
Accused aerotoxicity, I think that's what it was called, to be the main cause of their death. Again, they're not entirely related, but it's still close enough that I felt like I could take up some valuable podcast time. Well, you can always take up valuable podcast time, Robbie. Obviously, I won't be in Pennsylvania very often in the foreseeable future, and even if I was, I'm underage. But in Downingtown, Downingtown, or is it Downington? Probably.
Downingtown.
PA. Never been there.
It's near Philadelphia.
Is it called Downingtown?
I want to say yes.
Okay. You have. It has been recorded.
My answer has been recorded. And
it has been recorded.
I will be corrected in due time if I am incorrect.
Say it one more time.
No.
Please.
Downingtown? Downington?
Okay. Yep. The judges say, judges say yes, that is correct.
Okay, good. Very good.
We don't have any judges. I'm just making that up. Admittedly,
the terrible thing is I did live in that area at one point in my life, and I really probably should know.
I have an excuse. I have never heard of that town, and I've never lived close to Philadelphia or in Philadelphia. Anyway, he said, admittedly not very close to Philadelphia, there's a craft brewery called Victory Brewing Company, which I've been told is superb. And yes, I can verify that Victory Brewing is awesome. The particulars that I've heard are the Dirt Wolf, my mom's personal favorite. Your mom has good taste, which is a double IPA and has a bit of a grapefruit taste to it. Hop Devil, a regular IPA. Bing. Let's give a Hop Devil. That's a good one. And Golden Monkey, Belgian-style beer. Not tried that one. I also hear that you can find some of these around the country if you're lucky, so keep an eye out. Yep, I think I can get them at Total Wine here in Alpharetta. Nice. I'm eagerly awaiting to hear your response, which I probably won't get to for another 16 months. Your show is amazing, and I can't wait to listen to the next 320-ish episodes so I can ask you all of my questions. Right now, I have enough to fill a whole episode. Maybe we should do that. Wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds when appropriate. And again, this is Robbie Gouldy, and the article that he refers to, Steph, again, is the flight attendant for El Al. Was working on a flight in late March when she contracted the infectious disease measles, and then she was hospitalized, and she died this week following a 5-month battle with the infectious disease. Rotem Amatai, a 43-year-old employee for El Al, passed away on Tuesday after contracting measles at the end of March and falling into a deep coma, the Washington Post reports. She was flying from New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport to Israel around the time she began to show symptoms of the virus. She was later hospitalized, and after developing encephalitis, an inflammation of the brain caused by the disease, according to the outlet. Days after landing in Israel, the Israeli Ministry of Health released an alert about a measles patient on board an El Al flight from JFK into Israel on March 26 to 27, but did not mention specifically whether she was exposed to the illness while on the aircraft. At the time, officials also could not confirm where or when she may have contracted the virus, but noted that she did not appear to spread measles to anyone else on the flight, according to the report from the Washington Post. Medical professionals were unable to speak with her after she fell into a coma, but eventually got in contact with her mother, who verified that her daughter had received the required vaccines as a child. Still, the vaccine from her childhood may not have been strong enough to prevent her from contracting the virus, as patients were given a single dose of the vaccine in the 70s. These days, Israeli medical officials recommend giving children one dose when they're 12 months old and another one when they're in the first grade. Why didn't they just say 1 year old? Wouldn't that be easier?
12 months.
I never get that. Like when you have a kid and there's, how old is your child?
Well, where did this
18
article
months?
originate from? I feel like that happens outside of we like to say year and a half.
Yeah.
I feel like
I
in
always
other
like,
places it's more
so when you say 18
common to
months, I say it's a year and a half, right?
18 months. You know, those parents have just been counting every single month, though, if it's their first child or their only child. Taking
Yeah.
pictures for Instagram with the cute little
All right.
number.
I know. And that's the way they do the clothing and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So one dose when they're 12 months old and another one when they're in first grade. In a statement to the Jewish press, a spokesperson for El Al expressed their condolences to her family and said that they were properly handling the matter in accordance with the health ministry's guidelines. The company is bowing its head over the death of a member of El Al's aircrew, the spokesperson told the outlet. The company will continue to act on the matter in accordance with the health ministry's guidelines. Once the case became known, the company acted to vaccinate the company's aircrews, the spokesperson added. The company shares the deep grief of the family and will continue to accompany the family, which is very nice of them to say that and to do that. So what do you think, Steph? You you hear about these measles outbreaks and such.
Yeah, so we've definitely got a problem with that right now with some of the trend of parents not choosing not to vaccinate their children, or at least not keep up with the suggested time frame for vaccinations recently because of other fears, which have since been completely debunked, I should say. But it's really, really, really important that people get these vaccinations, especially for something like measles, because measles is really highly contagious. It's something like it can live up to 2 hours in an airspace where an infected person has coughed or sneezed. So if you're on a plane with someone who happens to have a measles infection and they cough or sneeze, that air around them has that virus. It's alive for up to 2 hours, and that can be enough for you to become infected if you are not appropriately vaccinated against the disease.
But we should also say something about the fact that it's not necessarily as serious as it was for this flight attendant as far as getting the encephalitis. And I mean,
no, but I mean, it does have the potential to be that way. And
Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make is that there is a vaccination for it that is
Right.
highly effective, and especially if you're going to be kind of working in close quarters, especially for folks like me working in healthcare or medicine,
Right.
and really just for everyone, you should be vaccinated against this
Yeah.
particular virus.
yeah, the MWR, I think, is the vaccine that they refer
Measles,
to.
mumps, and rubella are
Yeah.
MMR.
Or MMR, thank you. MWR is the Military Welfare and Recreation Department,
Yeah.
which has nothing to do with vaccinations.
Interestingly, I just pulled up the CDC here, and it talks about planning for travel and protecting yourself against measles. It says most measles cases in the United States result from international travel. So make sure you're protected. If your trip is less than 2 weeks away and you're not protected against measles, you should still get a dose of the MMR vaccine.
Okay.
There you go.
There you have it. That's from a doctor. Okay. Thanks, Robbie, and good luck with your college education. And I hope you have fun at where do you say he was going? Pennsylvania Polytech or something like that. What is that? Virginia Polytechnic
There you go.
Institute and State University. Okay. All right, moving on. Number 9. This is from Anthony. And also, let's see. This is he gave us a link to an article from mentalfloss.com. I always enjoy reading their stuff. And he says, and you think drones are problematic? All the best to the best crew, Anthony S. in West Caldwell, New Jersey. And he this link to Mental Floss magazine, or mentalfloss.com, refers to in 1959, the U.S. Postal Service attempted to deliver mail via missile, or missile if you prefer.
Missile. Yes.
If you're British, right? Is that the way they would say it? Missile.
I don't know.
In the late 1950s, the future was up in the air. The space race was just getting started.
Where's your rim
And
shot?
let me try that again. Okay. In the late 1950s, the future was up in the air.
Excellent.
The space race was just getting started, and the U.S. military was working on missiles that could reach around the world and even to the moon. The U.S. government didn't just see new flight capabilities as military priorities, though. It also thought that they could be used to carry mail, as we recently learned from Today I Found Out. Yes, the Postal Service once tried sending letters by missile mail.
Hey, can we pause for just a
Yeah.
half of a second? I'm sorry. This storm has just arrived. I'm going to go
Sure.
make sure the downstairs door and windows are closed real quick.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Be right back.
You're welcome. That's not the right word. Okay, now we can talk about her. Come on. Let's dish up the dirt. Yeah, Laura. Thank you for noticing the disparity there between CO2 and CO. I should have noticed it. I didn't. My bad. Jen should know the proper pronunciation of what? See, that was back in the chat about 10 minutes ago. Proper pronunciation of, the town in Pennsylvania. Got it. Let's see, Laura, I'd read in another article this case might be related to exposure to the Orthodox Jewish community passengers who have a low vaccination rate. Oh, the anti-vaxxers due to religious reasons. Yeah. I was going to, it forced me to do a little bit of research because a lot of the people that are kind of either not anti-vaxxers but are somewhere in between anti-vaxxers and pro-vaxxers. And the stat that I'd heard thrown out so many times was that there are more people that die from the actual vaccination itself than the disease. And so I sought to find that fact, but apparently that's not really true. I couldn't find any evidence of that anywhere. The only thing that I found was, some studies that kind of pour cold water on that. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Thank you, Laura. It's tough keeping the 50% up, isn't it? Okay, now she's back, so we have to stop talking about her.
It's fine. I was listening to no, just kidding.
You probably were, and we didn't talk about you.
Not.
We were talking about other stuff. All right. So I think I'll just I'll start off from where I left off. In June 1959, the U.S. Navy sent 3,000 letters on a guided missile toward a naval auxiliary air station in Mayport, Florida, launched from the USS Barbaro, a submarine that was stationed 100 miles off the U.S. coast in international waters. The 36-foot Regulus 1 missile made it to Mayport in 22 minutes. Ooh, that's fast.
That is pretty fast.
Held in 2 metal containers, it was supposed to be the missile's warhead chamber. The letters on board were copies of a letter from Postmaster General Arthur Summerfield to then President Eisenhower, Vice President Richard Nixon, individual representatives of Congress, members of the Supreme Court, the crew of the Barbaro, and more. The letters carried regular mail stamps, not even airmail, as the AP story that day noted. Okay. Turns out that they were soaking wet because they were in a submarine. I mean, come on. No, I'm just kidding. Ching bam. Yeah. Here we go. The Postal Service heralded it as the first successful delivery of mail by missile. There had been previous attempts, like a thwarted 1936 delivery on a rocket-powered plane across a lake between New York and New Jersey. Despite several attempts, that one never fully made a successful delivery. But delivery, quote unquote, was a bit of an overstatement. Most of those letters had to be sent by regular mail service at a post office in nearby Jacksonville, since the 3,000 recipients weren't sitting around at a naval base in Florida waiting for their letter.
Well, why not?
I don't know.
I mean, come on.
If they
Your
had
mail's
known,
going to be here on this day. You're going to have to go pick it up. Watch out for the incoming missile.
they should have known. I mean, if they had known that a missile was bringing their mail, they may have actually shown up. I would have. Hey, I want to see this missile bringing me my mail.
I mean, it'd have been like, nope, I got a postcard coming today. Gonna have to go down to the naval station. Naval base.
Let's see. Now that we know we can do it, Summerfield told the press, we plan a series of discussions to determine the practical extent to which the method can be used and under what conditions. It never did become practical, as we now know. Summerfield's successor, J. Edward Day, killed the program, pointing out that letters sent from the USS Barbaro ended up taking some 8 days to reach their intended recipients. Not exactly rocket speed. Anyway, so it goes on to talk a little bit more
Quite
about
humorous.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I have no idea that there was a point at which they were considering sending the mail, not air mail, but missile mail.
Rocket mail.
Rocket mail. Rocket mail. Da, 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 da. Okay. Tim sent us. Oh, I'm sorry, not Tim.
Jim?
Let me lower this a little bit. I'm wearing my
Your
progressive lenses.
Uh-huh. I can always tell when that's
That's
happened
the
because
that's
it's
the
like,
distant vision range that it's in.
Oh, man,
I can
do
see
you-
there's writing.
Do you hear that going on in the background right now?
No.
It is absolutely just coming down. Cats and dogs out there, like pouring, thunder, lightning, all
Oh,
kinds
man.
of wind. Yeah.
That's how good that microphone is.
Yeah, it is like, so it's only 6:52. It should still be daylight for another hour or so. It is pitch black outside right now.
Wow.
It's impressive. So,
But hey,
I'm still
kids,
here. I'm safe.
that's what a dynamic microphone, a good dynamic microphone does for you, because we can't hear a thing.
Nope.
Except
It's like I'm
right
in a little
her voice.
little soundproof box right here.
Yeah. All right. Well, be safe. Hunker down. If we see the wall collapse and
Yeah,
rain and everything else,
If all of a sudden like a big tree branch
We'll
comes
call
crashing
somebody.
through, just call someone. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fine.
yeah, you might want to head over to this address.
Yeah.
Check it out. She may or may not be alive.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 10 from Jim, just a navigator, also producer. He says, here is a OneDrive link to a 2-minute feedback concerning the BAE 146 and navigators. He says, as usual, feel free to use it all, part or none of this audio file. I had a conversation with Captain Nick in which I mentioned a podcast about F4s that I thought he might be interested in. That was the Fighter Pilot podcast, and here's a link to that. Oh, yeah. What's the guy's name? Nello. The guy that does the Fighter Pilot podcast is. I think that's the one that he's referring to, isn't it?
Yes.
I think it's.
I don't
he's
remember
he's
I've only
a-
listened to like
I-
a episode.
I think
an
his
episode.
nickname's like Jello or something
Okay,
like that.
something like
somebody
that,
in the somebody in the chat room will
They'll correct
correct
us.
me. I'm sure Jen probably. Anyway, so we have a link to that. Jello. Thank you, Glenn. Ding. Our APG community
Our
comes
hive
through for
mind.
us. Yes. All right. We'll put that link in the show notes for Nick. And let's play the feedback that Jim, just a navigator, sent in.
Howdy, APG cockpit crew and listeners. This is Jim, just a navigator in Texas. I wanted to thank the APG cockpit crew and everyone who showed up at the Oshkosh gatherings that we had. It was really a lot of fun to put so many faces to voices and meet so many new people from all over the world. I have to single out Colonel Jeff, who taught me a whole lot about the F-15E that I didn't know. Sounds like a really cool airplane. I have a tad of feedback for APG 386, I believe it was, where we talked about the BAE 146. While I was in Upper Hayford in England in the late 80s, there was a BAE 146 accident. A member of the British royal family was flying what I think was a 146 that belonged to number 32 squadron. It ran off the end of the runway. There are many reasons why an airplane might run off the end of the runway, of course, but the problem here was obvious. There was a navigator on board, so obviously it was the navigator's fault that the royal family member pilot ran his airplane off the end of the runway.
Obviously.
I mean, I don't think the inquiry took more than 5 minutes to look around, point to the poor navigator and say, obviously it's his fault. So some things are international. I have another similar story about a navigator who was blamed for not dying in an airplane. I will save that one for another feedback later. Anyway, again, thank you for everybody who showed up at Oshkosh and milled around the APG luxury bus, and all the people, especially the APG crew who put all that together. Thank you very much, and I look forward to listening more. This is Jim in Texas.
Hey, Jim, it was our pleasure. It was a blast, literally an Osh blast.
Nosh blast, yes.
Yeah, it was great seeing you, Jim, at the show, and visiting the APG Mobile Palace.
So many names for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously it was the navigator's fault for that incident.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear.
I mean, come on, really goes without saying. Yeah. And let's see. I look forward to the next, or the what did he say? The other instance, at least, that he could think of, where things were blamed on the navigator when clearly, in his opinion,
it's a theme.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to item 11, which, believe it or not, is the last item in our current show folder. I do have some extra stuff here and there that we can use if we want to. We may want to just end it early, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Sure.
But this is from Robert, and he says he's checking in from LGB, which is Long Beach Airport. And he said, I recorded this quick video for you guys at Unique Retro LGB yesterday. The reason why he says retro, because they still, believe it or not, don't have, what do you call them? The jetways and stuff, the jet
like
bridges.
Bridge?
Yeah, they still have air stairs and stuff. Yeah, and the weather's usually great.
Well, it's fine, so it doesn't matter if you walk outside a little bit.
Yeah, not like Albany, New York, where they had air stairs for many, many years, including in the middle of blizzards.
How's the weather in Albany in like January or
Horrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
Not good.
Yeah, I saw old ladies getting blown off the air stairs and into the taxiways. I think we haven't seen them. I don't know where they went. Anyway, back to Robert's feedback. I didn't make it to the Mad Dog factory nearby that has been turned into a Mercedes-Benz plant, but hope the crew is well. And so I'll just play a quick snippet. Oh, I thought I got some audio from this. Let me see what happens if I press this button. Nothing. But hang on.
Hey, I'm APG crew, and checked in with you guys for a bit. I'm gonna try to stop by over by the Mad Dog birthplace. It's here near Long Beach. Just touched down here in beautiful California. But hope all is well. Let's see. I checked in with an episode or two lately, but oh, you guys were at Oshkosh. That's right. So thanks for the updates up there. And about a week and a half in sunny California, and maybe about a 0.2% chance of rain we'll see out here. And so catch up with you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, we'll put that link to his Facebook video in the show notes if you want to see the beautiful background. He's framed it pretty well, so you can see the Long Beach Airport Tower behind him.
Yeah,
and you can see the beautiful blue skies and I'm sure non-humid air. And that was not far at all from where I grew up. Basically, I was actually born in Long Beach. I grew a couple years in Lakewood, which is very close to the Long Beach Airport, and Los Alamitos, which is also very close to the Long Beach Airport. So glad you had a good trip there, Robert. Thanks for sending that in. And let me see here. How's it going out there, Steph?
Still dark, still very loud, and very rainy and windy.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can end the show if you'd like, or
no,
we can...
it's okay. We can keep going. I'm good.
Let me find... I have to show the sidebar. Why is it doing that? Okay. Miscellaneous. There we go. Okay. Here's a good one.
25 right via Charlie 9 Bravo. We have Alpha 648.
Delta 1394, give way that heavy there at Tango 1, then taxi.
Bravo, flight deck, welcome aboard American Airlines Flight 292 with service to JFK. Just a couple checks left to complete up front here. We'll be ready to go. Once everyone's seated in the back with your carry-on stowed and we have your baggage stowed underneath, we'll be able to push from the gate. Looks like about 20 minutes for an average taxi time for takeoff. Once we are airborne, looking at 5 hours and 11 minutes flight time en route to JFK. We're anticipating the ride to be good on ground tonight.
Oh my God.
All right, 721, proceed to Charlie outbound this way. JFK looking at winds out of the southeast at 10 miles visibility with partly cloudy skies and a temperature of 55 degrees. I know most of you are going to want to relax and probably sleep most of the way to JFK tonight, so this is going to be my only announcement to you tonight. And it's absolutely necessary. That we won't be waking anyone up. Thanks. So for now, I hope you have a good flight. Sit back, relax, and welcome. You're around. Thanks for the brief. 25011.
And for Delta 1394 is Tango via then what?
Delta 1394, Tango Bravo, 25 right.
Tango Bravo, 25 right, Delta 1394.
Sector 648.
Anyway. Not the first
You're on
time
ground. You're on ground.
It's funny. Have
No.
you notice everybody's trying to
Like,
transmit as well, and all you can hear is like the
click, 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 click. Yeah. Wow.
Ooh, I did hear that.
The house
That-
actually shook with that one.
I was gonna say, if we can
Like,
hear it through that microphone, that's got to
There's
be
actual
darn
shaking.
loud. Wow.
It's a good
Oh,
storm.
I hope that there are no tornadoes
I have
involved
no
with the
idea.
storm. Wow. Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the PA on ground control at LAX.
No. I mean, that was also impressive. It
was
was a very
funny.
nice PA.
It was a very nice PA, and it was interesting. He kind of let go of the button for a second, and I think that most everybody thought, "Oh, thank goodness he's realized that
Yes.
he's No, he was
No,
just
keeps
taking.
going.
He was just taking a breath.
Gulp of air, and let's continue with this PA. It's going to be the best PA.
I love the
I've ever
ground
done.
controller. Oh my god!
Oh my god! Oh my god! Yeah.
Because you can imagine she's like
She's
trying
got
to.
work to do.
Los
you know?
Angeles International
It's a-
Airport is a busy place.
Yeah.
And she's trying to keep everything moving and everything else, and basically he's blocking everything. Everybody's got to stop.
Yeah. Like you said, though, not the first time.
Oh,
Not
no.
the last time.
No,
Not the last time it would probably happen to any of us either.
Nope, I'm not gonna shake my finger at that guy. Not gonna do it.
Have you done it?
I'm not gonna say. I've done it on a in-flight frequency, like a center frequency, which is doesn't have the same implications.
Right.
And there's not as much going on time critical wise as there is on ground control frequency at a major international airport. So I have not done that yet.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see, I'm looking at maybe just what's this one here? Yeah, I'll save that one for another show. This is kind of an interesting one, also at Los Angeles International Airport.
Tower, good evening, Alaska 229, about 3 miles from Lima, 25 miles.
Polaris 914, Elite Tower.
Go ahead, Ballet 914.
Polaris 914, traffic 1 o'clock, less than a mile northbound, 1,200, type unknown.
In type, Ballet 914.
Is there an aircraft at 1,100 feet, 3 miles east of LAX Airport? Who's the aircraft 3 miles east of LAX?
Evening Tower, Alaska 229, mile and a half from Lima.
Alaska 229, LA Tower, wind 2306, runway 25 left, clear to land.
Good to land, 25 left, Alaska 229.
Please 16, are you on a call?
16 affirm.
All right, we just had a TCA violator pop in there midair. Just let me know.
Roger, we'll answer.
He's 3 mile final 24. I don't know, I think he's circling. Hey, he's coming back.
Alaska 229, traffic alert, traffic 12 o'clock, 3 miles southbound, altitude indicates 1,300, type unknown. It does have a transponder there. Nobody is talking to that aircraft, including approach control. Do you have that traffic in sight?
Yeah, we got him in sight 12 o'clock and, yeah, going southbound.
Okay, Alaska 229, thank you.
He's trying to, he's circling back. He's aiming for another aircraft right now. He's passing right behind him on a 1 mile final 2-4. We think it might be a helicopter. And he's heading back towards Hawthorne Airport right now.
Roger, Police 16, sir, if I could, let's come up and get closer to 4 or 5. We'll take a look, sir.
Okay, I'll go ahead and stop it right there. So 3 mile final, 1,000 feet.
Yeah, do that math.
3 to 1, it sounds to me like, which is a standard
about in that
glide path.
vicinity of the glide path, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that would be like right on a 3 to 1 glide path.
Yep.
Where this guy obviously lost, obviously not understanding that he is flying
nice day
right through
for
the finals.
Seeing here in, let's just make a little turnaround. We'll go back again and take a look at the airport here. And
2-4 is, those are the runways on the northern side of LA. So he's on the northern finals, and Hawthorne is southeast of the 2-5s, pretty close to the Los Angeles International Airport, actually. And so if he actually, and basically later in this recording, it talks about the fact that they think that he finally made it to Hawthorne and landed. And if that's the case, that means he went right through all the finals at LAX. And how they didn't have a midair there, I have no idea. But
it's terrifying.
That's the only information I could find about this, and whether it was a helicopter or whatever kind of airplane, it doesn't matter.
Did they say at one point it sounded like he was circling back around to actually like be in the way of an aircraft? Or
Well, I don't think he was intentionally
he was
doing
just meandering.
He was probably like flying around going, there should be a runway here somewhere.
Where's that In-N-Out burger everyone talks about?
I think
down here?
He wasn't far from that, actually.
No, I know. If he was on the north side of the 2-4s, that's exactly where that is.
Exactly where you have a nice view of that, whatever kind of vehicle it was, helicopter or fixed wing. Anyway, just thought that that was interesting as well. Sometimes I like to kind of check out live ATC, and they'll have
interesting recordings.
And those were both on that bulletin board. So I thought that I could throw them in there just in case we needed to talk about something.
No, I think those are interesting.
Yeah. So check out liveatc.net. A lot of the audio that we get air-to-air or air-to-ground audio is from that site. And they make a great app. Steph, have you ever used it while you're traveling?
I used it yesterday while I was driving.
Uh-huh.
Because, so this thunderstorm that's going on out here, this has been kind of this is the typical end of summer in the South. You get these late afternoon thunderstorms where things are just kind of crazy. And I was going back I would actually come home early yesterday because Thursday is my early day. I was driving back into the city to meet up with some friends in the evening, and kind of stop and go traffic going back into Charlotte that time of day too. But as you're driving north on I-77, they were landing aircraft to the north, so you get a nice view of airplanes coming overhead on final. And the Lufthansa A350 that they fly in flew right over my head. And I went, ooh, the A350. Cool.
Nice.
Because that's the only one of that type that lands at Charlotte currently. And I mean, it's, usually it's like CRJs and stuff landing, so it stands out. It's much larger. And then...
Ooh, I heard that. Like either somebody just crashed into your garage, or that's the thunderstorm.
That's the thunderstorm.
Okay.
So, but anyway, you can see this thunderstorm like approaching Charlotte from the kind of north west yesterday. And I'm watching the flight, and then you see them going around on the other, like they kind of disappeared, behind the tree line for a second, and then coming back around. Kind of made a nice dramatic. I wish I'd had a better camera or way to take a picture of it, because it was really cool with the storm coming in and them turning around. So I was like, ooh, I wonder what's going on, because the storm didn't look that close at that point, but apparently there was some pretty significant wind shear already occurring because of that storm. So
with the app, you can.
So I pulled up the tower and approach control and was able to listen to what was going on and get a little more insight.
They have a great network of people out there, volunteers, that have these scanners set up, and then it's a live feed to liveatc.net. You can listen to it on your computer or your mobile device, if you have the app.
And it's basically real time. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a very small lag
Right.
in terms of how fast that gets uploaded if you're listening to the live feed.
Yeah, so especially handy for you aviation enthusiasts and spotters. And of course, if you're a spotter, you probably already know about the Live ATC app. But check it out if you haven't yet. And with that, I think it's now time for us to end the show, unless you have anything else, Steph.
No, nothing else here. It's
Okay.
a good show.
Very
Just,
good. We need to end the show before Steph's demise.
Exactly. My
'Cause I can-
impending doom here.
Your impending doom. Okay. If you want to send us feedback, there are several different ways to do that. One of which is good old email feedback at airlinepilotguy.com, where you can send us text feedback, or do like many of our community members do, send audio, and you can attach it to the email address, feedback at airlinepilotguy.com. And speaking of airlinepilotguy.com, a great website where we have all kinds of good stuff on there about the crew and the community and merchandise and the plane tales and so much more, including the APG library. I haven't mentioned that in a while. Our librarian Tiffany maintains that. So if you're looking for a good read that's related to aviation, please check out the APG library. And as I said, many, many more things there at the APG website, airlinepilotguy.com. And we are also on the social medias.
Social medias, head over to twitter.com, and our handle there is APG Crew. You can find our individual Twitter information also pinned to the very top of that page. We like to have brief conversations there, 280 characters or less, if that's your thing. If you're a little more long-winded, head over to facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. And again, lots of good community interaction, place to share different links and articles and discuss happenings in the world of aviation, and some meetup information in both of those places. But if you're really looking for more of that type of thing, head on over to Slack.
Hang on. Hillel! Hillel! Oh. Uh-oh.
Timing, Hillel.
Oh yeah, Delta P.
Yeah, you're on, man. It's your segment.
What the heck is on this hand towel, Jeff?
I don't want to know.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share ideas and news. We suggest episode and Playing Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled HI11E1, Hotel India 11 Echo 1. And see you in Slack. Sorry, Jeff, I might have used all your skin lotion.
Okay. Thanks, Hillel. Appreciate it.
He'll replace that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's about it for this week's show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. A big shout out to our producer, Liz, who's back from her couple of week vacation. We missed you, and thanks for being back full time for us. And thank you to all of those who showed up to listen, watch the show live, and hang out in our chat room. And that's about it. So until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
I hear you dogs.
Yes. Sorry.
They're not happy about the storm.
No,
I could
no,
just
they're
barely hear.
both-
I heard like a little
They
tiny
just started
sound.
barking, which makes me think that perhaps the deer are actually wandering outside the window.
Ah.
They're not probably so upset about the storm because that doesn't really seem to bother
I
them.
don't, is Hillel with us on the chat?
No.
Because he did actually record another better quality Slack thing, and I don't know what I did with it. Need to find that and put that on the. I have a special segment on the soundboard for Hillel in the bathroom. Let's see.
Is that just one whole row of the soundboard now?
It's like its
devoted
own
to
page. I
its own
have
page?
1, 2, 3, 4, 10 of these. So we heard the Delta P. Here's the short Delta P.
Oh yeah, Delta P. Can you get me a roll of toilet paper? Mind if I use your razor, Jeff?
Jeff.
Where's the soap? What the?
Oh, I already did that one.
I wouldn't go in there for a while, Captain. Fire in the hole. I need a towel. I got shampoo in my eyes.
Shampoo.
What's he doing with the shampoo? I don't want to know. Don't want to know.
Just like, you don't want to know on this one either.
What the heck is on this hand towel,
No,
Jeff?
don't want to know.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Yeah. Maybe I put it over here in this one. Let's see.
APG listeners, please join us.
No, that's the old one. The one I just played. Anyway, I'll put the new one in on the audio only. And I'll try to find it and put it in one of these soundboards. Because it's not on my iPad nor on this one here. So always work to do. Always. So, hey, what did everybody think about... Liz, is she going to join us? Liz?
Like, while we're still live.
Oh, that's right. She waits until we're off the broadcast. Never mind. So what did everybody think in the chat room of this new thing, this new streaming interface? What do you think, Steph?
No, I like it. I think it's nice. I think it's, I like being able to see everyone all at this. Wow, that's very zoomed in.
I don't like this.
I don't like the zoomed in one.
Yeah. Let me go back to this. This is better.
Better. No, I like it. The only thing I kind of miss is being able to put like I probably guess I could do like a share screen if I wanted to put my avatar up if I was leaving, to get up for a minute, so people don't just have to look at
you know what?
my blank office.
I think I've been experimenting with a bunch of these, and one of them I think allows you to do something with your avatar. No, I think it was a different one. There's another one called Lightstream, which is much more powerful, but it's still browser based. But I think it probably will make my laptop sing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of computing
a lot of
power
CPU.
going on there.
Yeah. But we may experiment with that in between shows just to kind of check it out. But it gives us a lot of, a lot more flexibility.
I'm like half expecting something to come crashing through the ceiling. Or the
Is there a
roof
lot
every
of
time that happens.
rain and wind that you're hearing as well?
Yes.
Oh,
Lots.
boy. Anyway, so we haven't decided completely on StreamYard, but I think I like it. It's easy
better than
to
the
use.
other options. Yeah. I mean, it just seems to work fine.
It does. Just seem to work, except for unless you're guest number
Guess
four.
number 4. Don't be number 4.
Maybe that was a fluke. I don't know. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast so we can talk about you all behind your backs. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. We do love you. Thanks for being with us today, and look forward to being with you again soon. Take care.
Bye.
Wanted to make sure.
Still live.
I know.
Bye.
It says end your broadcast. It's like a